And we're live with Roundabout Cast 78. Despite the nonsense that we just did before starting this, this is the one. Hey guys, how's everyone doing?
My retina's hurt.
My social standing hurts.
Oof.
Joe lost social credit points. He's been a naughty boy lately.
I've had some issues. I've had to contact my bank and many other services to protect myself and conserve my points.
Should we even be calling you Joe at
That's
this point?
what I was thinking. This is like a PACT situation, which you wouldn't really understand, Joe. But you're in Arc 8 right now, if you ask me.
I understand the concept.
His name got repoed.
He got pedraked.
Yeah, some bad people try to access my accounts and have sensitive information, and I'm going through processes to try to make. The good news is that like nothing completely illegal happened yet, meaning like they didn't actually steal money from me yet, and should hopefully never, because we caught it earlier enough.
I'm sorry you had to go through that, Joe. But...
Yeah, talk about. I only had 3 days of work this week, and it was all wasted for this fucking event. So I'm kind of pissed at myself.
Wonder if somebody on this I wonder if it was one of our listeners.
Yeah, I do secretly at the end of every podcast decide to put in my personal information.
He said his social security over the course of 28 podcast segments.
No,
over the last 2 years.
It's simpler than that. If I ask Joe to do the timestamps for the episode, he actually makes the last digit of the first 8 timestamps his social security.
Yeah. I wonder if it's possible. I wonder if it is possible that you could have somehow like just stick together all the times I've said numbers to come up with my social security number.
We'll leave that for a dedicated viewer to decide, because I'm not.
Yeah.
So
and then you're going to jail.
Who wants to go first in our newly rebranded Free Talk segment?
I could go because I'm excited.
Let's go.
Okay.
Get it in there.
So, this is kind of the sequel to my last quick talk, because my last quick talk, I think I was talking about Divergent, which got us on the subject of Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And after our last podcast, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because that is the prequel to the Hunger Games, centered around President Snow when he was younger. And what started off as like a fuck it, I'll just see what this is. It's probably some Harry Potter and the Cursed Child extra stuff for the super fans.
Yeah.
I've been very surprised. I really like this book. I'm going to be doing a full talk on it next time. But one thought I remember having at one point after I watched the Hunger Games movies for like the 3rd time is I was like, the Hunger Games is kind of and I hated thinking that, because I remember when the books were first coming out and I was reading them, granted I was a lot younger, God, I was like so enthralled in this. I remember the books just being the best thing ever.
They were a big deal. Even I was reading books, and I was not a book reader back then, but
yeah. And I remember even in high school when the movies were coming out, like I would read the book and I'd be blown away. This is like the best thing ever. And then I would watch the movie a couple years later and I'd be like, it's all right, but it's not like the best thing ever. And I eventually got to the point where I was like, were the books ever even that good? Like, how good is Suzanne Collins at writing? This book, like, I get, like, there's a reason she's a worldwide known author. Holy shit. She's really good at writing.
That's good to hear. It means we weren't all duped. Like,
yeah, we weren't duped.
Now, I do want to say, though, as much as the Hunger Games is like popular, she wrote another series that I am much more fond of.
Really?
Ooh.
Yes, she wrote the Gregor the Overlander series.
Oh, I didn't even realize she wrote that shit.
And I love those books. I don't know if you know them, Willard, but they're young adult books, but it's about like a 10-year-old boy. He falls down a hole that's behind his washing machine and finds like an underground society where they have like giant bats and rats as like mounts.
It's Undertale,
I guess, but it's really cool. It's very fantasy. It's got a lot of prophecy stuff in it, but like I really like at the end because she like turns the whole prophecy system on its head and kind of like really makes you think about like religion and faith, especially when you're like 13 years old. Like I never thought about things that way. Interesting. But yeah, I really like that series from her.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Now, for this book in particular, I'm not gonna go into spoilers or get too deep because I'm planning on talking about it later. But I at least want to talk about the premise a tiny bit, because the only thing I know about this book going on is it takes place from the perspective of President Snow during the 10th Hunger Games. And I didn't really know what that means.
I don't. Okay, I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, is this going to be like some kind of book to make President Snow more sympathetic? Is this going to be like showing how he became the guy he was? Or why is it set during the 10th Hunger Games? And I don't, much to my great pleasure, I don't think this is necessarily like a make the reader sympathize with President Snow in the future book. Because I think he kind of is. I think he's gone through all the stuff that makes him the person he is at the outset of this book. Like at one point, someone in the Capitol even looks at the tributes and is like, "I'm just imagining what it would be like to be them. It's so horrible." And our POV bursts out laughing, and before he realizes, like, "Oh my God, you're serious." He does not like people from the districts.
So he was always that way.
To a degree. Now, I think while it doesn't paint him in a more sympathetic light in terms of the stuff he does necessarily, I do think it paints a very good picture as to how someone like him could come about in the real world. That was really cool. Now, another thing that's cool about this setting and it being in the 10th Hunger Games is, I think what's really cool about this book is it kind of shows you how culturally the Hunger Games became what they did, because in the core Hunger Games series, I'm like, how does this really work? Like they had this war, they had this treaty, and all of a sudden they make the Hunger Games and everyone's looking forward to season 3 for their favorite new tributes. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And the Hunger Games take a very different form in this book and early on. At the 10th Hunger Games, there's no interviews, there's no big fanfare. Once a year, they open up the amphitheater that they used for the Hunger Games last year. They dump all the kids in, they kill each other, and as soon as they're done killing each other, they close it down and they do it again next year.
So it wasn't always so corporate.
It wasn't always so corporate, and I think it's really cool how you see things kind of shifting over in this book, why they became the way they did. Because even then, like, culturally, the Capitol isn't really ready for the modern Hunger Games. There's people who were born and raised in the Capitol, and even one of them, because Professor Snow's role in this book is that people just aren't really watching the Hunger Games, and him and 23 other people at this academy he goes to are tasked with figuring out how to get more people to watch. And even then, like, you know, one of his classmates born and raised in the Capitol is like, people aren't watching because, like, whatever the reasons for it are, they're still kids. Decent people aren't going to want to watch kids kill each other. And so, I don't know. Without going into too much detail, I think it's really cool to see how they play off of society to
Yes.
I was trying to think of like a non-Joker way to say it, but
There's no way.
there's no way to say it. I don't know. It's just really cool to see that evolution. The POV is really, really cool because while he's kind of a nasty person who doesn't value the lives of the district scum very much, God, he's entertaining. He is very conscious of the fact that his charm is his greatest weapon. He's pretty Machiavellian. He's very good at saying one thing that can hurt someone else's status while also like shifting the benefit of the doubt away from him. Like, oh, he didn't mean it like that. So I don't know. But look forward to this book.
Yeah, that sounds cool, and I hope the movie's good then.
God, me too.
I guess we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if this resparked, if the movie is popular, if it resparked like the next era of, you know,
the next trilogy of Hunger Game books.
We can get a whole Fantastic Beasts trilogy.
Again.
That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Can't escape it on this podcast. Run from it, dress from it. So
Reset the clock.
Who wants to go next? Well,
Well,
Bradley, side note, you haven't finished DDD yet, right? Kingdom Hearts?
No, holy shit. that game, your damage falls off a lot later in the game, which I've seen other people say that online, so I've been having to do a lot of grinding, but also I've been going through collecting every treasure chest in the game.
You didn't do that for the other ones. That's interesting.
I didn't do that for the other ones. I feel like you kind of have to in this one because, like, in the other ones, you might miss out on, some super rare crafting materials if you want to try to synthesize everything.
Or, like, a couple of recipes that are spread out into,
Yeah, in this game, holy shit, any given treasure chest could just have a potion in it, or it could also have a super rare, one-of-a-kind, 2-slot ability that you can't find anywhere else in the game. So I'm like, I guess I'll just level up by going and finding all the damn treasure chests.
About your grinding thing, you can always turn to the dark side, Bradley. It's always there in your command deck, ready for use.
I'll never.
All I'm saying is slot in 1 or 2 balloons. You just stop there. Keep it casual.
It's actually not in my command deck ready for use because I've been getting rid of them whenever I get them.
It's like I can't have this evil in my hand.
I can't even have it tempting me.
This Behelit in my inventory. Okay, good to know. We'll talk about that in the future as well. Joe, you could go actually if you want.
Yeah. So this is up to y'all. So very, very quickly. Oh God, there was a thing to talk about that I played Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I really like the Tomb Raider reboot series, but I bounced off really hard from Shadow of the Tomb Raider when it first came off. And I finished the book, and it made me really like wanting to like do like an adventure style thing. So I was like, I'll play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I want to see why I bounced off it. As soon as I started that game, I realized why I bounced off it so hard. A game like fundamentally doesn't know like what it's trying to be. And like it starts like 3 times. It's very frustrating. It's a very mediocre game from like a series that had like 2 really solid entries in it with Tomb Raider and Rise.
I hear it gets good once you get into it. I know some people don't like it a lot. Maybe not.
It's okay. I just think like the traversal in like the other 2 games were a lot more interesting. Combat and like stealth was a lot more like fun, I would say, in the other 2 games. So I don't know. I really wasn't vibing with this game, which was a big disappointment to me. So the other thing is Crusader Kings 3 released a new DLC called Tours and Tourneys. It's a great DLC. A lot of the people in the Crusader Kings subreddit are now saying like there's no reason to go back to the old Crusader Kings 2. Because this one really brings it up to a level above where the previous game stopped at. And it's a lot of fun. I shared a bit of my latest run with the rest of y'all, which was very wild. That was a very tragic ending to that like run.
You get really good stories out of this game.
Yes. Bradley, I think you should definitely like give it a look if it ever goes on sale. I think you would get a kick out of it. It's very like much like you look at it like, oh, this is a very complicated 4X game. You shouldn't come with that mindset. It's really just a role-playing game that has a 4X skin over it. Which is really.
How does combat work? Because I don't think I like 4X combat is what I've unfortunately found.
So combat is like definitely the weakest part of this game, where it's literally just like you declare war on somebody, and basically there's apparently some nuance to it. And you can really cheese it apparently, but like from what I find, it's like if your army is bigger than the other army, you're gonna win like 9 out of 10 times.
Okay, cool. Because I don't like the good 4X combat, so a dumbified, simplified one is probably what I need.
Yeah, it's like it's very simple. I will say though, like when you're just kind of fumbling around, you're just like, how the fuck do I do anything or progress? And it's really difficult. I find that as like the fun part of the game is trying to figure out the path to like make progress and expand yourself. And the game has no win condition. They tell you right at the front, it's just like you should just go into the game and try to get as far as you can or do whatever. Try to set your own goal and try to accomplish it. Like a very common one very early on is to take over the island of Ireland, starting there. And so like it's a really good and simple goal, and it's really easy to get. From a long-standing standpoint, but it's very good. The other thing I had here was I came up with a because we had so many great games released this month and this week.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to play a small game with y'all. So I have here 3 games in front of me. One game that came out 20 years ago in the month of June. One game that came out 10 years ago in the month of June. One game that came out 5 years ago in the month of June.
No, dude.
Oh my God, Joe's gimmicks keep getting more complex. Okay.
So we're gonna start with the first one. I'm gonna go off of the bat immediately. These aren't like obscure games. They're games that I'm pretty sure you all know. I'm gonna tell you the genre of the game and what consoles it released on, and we're going off of United States release dates, not Japanese release dates.
Oh, we're playing Guess the Game in real life. Okay.
Yeah.
Alive.
Okay, so the first one. This is back in 2003. It's a GameCube game, side-scrolling action game.
Side scroller on GameCube?
What?
Yeah.
Is it Beautiful Joe?
It is.
Really?
Yeah, that was my first thought too. I was like, is it action or beat 'em up?
Yeah, but yeah, no, Beautiful Joe came out 20 years ago, June 26th.
Now, hold on. Are you playing it? Like, why is this coming up in this format? What's happening right now?
Why? I just literally looked up what games came out in June.
Okay, you're just fucking with us. Okay, you keep going.
Yeah.
Like what a legendary game Beautiful Joe was.
I love that shit.
Very, very, very pretty. Okay, this next game, 10 years ago, came out in the U.S. in 2013 in June. 3DS game.
Oh fuck.
Codename Steam.
Link Between Worlds.
What's the genre?
The genre is casual.
Animal Crossing.
Fantasy Life. No.
Tyler's correct. Animal Crossing New Leaf came out 10 years ago.
I bought Animal Crossing New Leaf after I graduated from high school on my trip to go out to California.
Yeah. So.
Now hold on.
So,
you said DS, not 3DS. I'm pretty
I said
sure.
3DS.
You said 3DS.
Okay. Carry on.
Okay. So this last one is very important to us. It came out 5 years ago.
Monster Hunter World.
June 22nd. Sports game. Nintendo.
Mario Tennis Aces Switch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Holy
Yo.
shit. Holy shit.
I know when that game roughly came out.
Never forget.
And to go off to like what Willer said, I think either on this podcast or before this podcast, but like I thought of this idea. It's like, oh, there's a lot of games coming out. I wonder what came out around this time years ago. Summer is really like there's not a lot of like crazy things coming out during this time.
The thing is, like, at the end of summer, I have like a Willer game coming out. So and I have my most anticipated game of the year in the middle of summer of June. So it's crazy. So we'll see.
Like this June is like crazy good.
Yo, wouldn't it be cool if like Good Place Heaven was real, and at the end of our lives we could just sit around and play all the video games we didn't have time to play?
Yeah, I think about that, but also if Good Place Heaven was real, there would be complications.
All right, everyone go into the to the reconfiguration room.
Oh, into the Michael Jackson room?
Yeah.
So Tyler, with that in mind, or if Joe, is that your section?
Yeah, that was me. I'm done.
That was a fun gimmick. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate these. Tyler, do you want to go? You did something. You did something weird.
Yeah, I'm old now. I hit old. I feel old. Not that old.
You're not
pretty.
old.
I'm pretty spry still. But I went to my 10-year high school reunion.
Nice.
We had like only 30 people show up, and it was like the same people I sat at lunch with in high school. I'm just sitting at the bar with now.
Oh, I mean, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was fine. It was just weird. Like there was like it was like probably 50. It was half and half, where like half of them are the people that I hung out with in high school, and then the other half is like people that I knew and talked to often in high school, and people I spoke to actually after high school as well. Like some people I went to community college with that also were like from my old high school, and it was really neat because everybody was like, yeah, it's fucking awkward. We don't know how to talk to each other because none of us talk to each other. So it was nice. I saw one of my friends who I do talk to every now and then. His name, he's on our Discord server. He's Sad Boy.
Yeah.
And like I talk to him often, so it was really nice getting to see him. I don't know. Girlfriend went with me, and it was just chill. She got the experience of everyone only saying nice things about me, contrary to what this group of friends actually believes about me.
That's nice of them.
Well, we know the
yeah.
true you. So.
Yeah, but don't see me for 10 years and then you'll be like, oh shit, I'm fucking Miss Tyler.
Hey, wait, are you saying we say shit about you? That's untrue.
Yeah.
Did you not pick up on that?
That's 2 podcasts now where Tyler does a scathing jab at us and I can't deny. He's striking back.
But yeah, like that was it. It was really interesting because we got we got towards the end of the evening and like people wanted to go to more bars and I was like, oh man, I really was liking the first bar we were at because it was like pretty chill. We could just keep talking to people, like I was down to do that. And that's really what I wanted to do all evening, was just kind of visit and catch up. And some people wanted to like go clubs and stuff. And I was like, we got to one of the clubs and Keith had come out. He's another friend that lives in Houston. And it's just like, I looked around, I was like, yo, fuck this. Like, I want to leave. Like, I cannot stand this. I was like, I am not single enough, lonely enough, or horny enough to be in a club. I have no reason to be here. So we left, and we were like gonna stay the night at a friend's house, and we looked at each other and it's like, yo, what if we just drove through McDonald's and then drove 3 hours home tonight? So we did that, and we got home at like 4 a.m. It was a really good time.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Sometimes that's the move.
Nothing beats sleeping in your own bed. It's rejuvenating in a different way.
Yeah, but everybody was really nice. Like, I have a guy who I used to be close friends with, maybe, I don't know, who also does a podcast, and I listened to his podcast like maybe a month or 2.
I remember you helped him with the logo, right? I remember you talking about that.
Oh, that was simple, man. I graphic design's my passion.
Yeah.
Like, I was shocked he still used it, actually. I was like, come on, man. Like, you do this. Like, he does it a lot more often than we do, actually. Like, I was like, you could really put some nice money into it. Don't stop using your old high school friend's logo. He doesn't do good work. Like, I don't do good work,
Just
man.
charge him for royalties when the money breaks in.
I want a beer and a McDonald's double, and that's about it. That's probably that's probably asking for more than I should get in royalties from something like that.
Fair.
But he also talked about like the high school reunion coming up, and it was just interesting to hear like the compare and contrast. Because he's got like a more sports and television and movie focused podcast, but it was really fun.
We've got normie podcast.
We've got assorted nerd shit. So
yeah, sorry, that was just to go into like, I remember him saying it's like gonna be awkward, and it was awkward, but it was still just, everybody seems to like be doing really well. And I talked to some guy, I talked to one of the guys there who I did like 6th grade choir with, and like after that point, like we ran into football every now and then, and he was like a very casual school acquaintance who I never hung out with outside of school, but I was not afraid to talk to in school. And he is half white, half black, half Mexican. He is a nice mix.
Half.
Sorry. He's a third. He's a quarter of all, or third. His mom is 2 halves, and his dad is 2 halves. I don't.
Sure.
Like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. I'm not good.
Yes.
I'm not here to be good at math.
Yes.
But he was like, man, like I've been around like lots of parts of Texas now, and like he like works out in plants and stuff, and it's just like, growing up, I hear about like people who live from Dallas who like dealt with like a lot of bullying in school, some who didn't, people who just didn't do shit, like even from like the west side of Houston. And I don't know, it's weird just talking to people who I talked to people there that showed up who I knew got probably bullied or felt bullied by other people. But they were still just like, yeah, it's really nice to see everybody. Like, I was hoping, like, everybody who I talked to said they had wished more people had showed up.
Kids suck, but adults are a little better.
Yeah. I only forgot one guy's name. I felt really bad about that. I thought I called him Cody and his name was Garrett, but I'm like, to be honest, he only had like Bieber cuts like me in school, and then he got a short haircut, and I was just like, oh shit. I forgot his name immediately at the bar. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna talk to you the rest of the time while we're here, and that was uncomfortable. Yeah. So it was uncomfortable, not bad, not good, interesting more than anything.
If I went to one, I would forget a lot of names, unfortunately. Even though I was cool with everyone in high school, I got along. But the thing is, so much of my brain has because I stopped social mediaing, my brain is just replaced with stupid One Piece facts instead of those people's names now.
That's the reason why I started forgetting names too. Is I cut out. But here's the thing, you have to first of all say, yeah, I'm gonna go to one.
Yeah.
And then oh yeah, 10, 15, 20 people show up.
Yeah.
Could be 100, and then you're really in the
and then you're still only gonna talk to 20 people.
No, Tyler. They line you up in a baseball game, and you have to go down a row and say something nice about each other.
Good game.
GG.
And then you see your actual friend, and you slap his ass instead, and then you keep going back to the.
That's actually what happened. It was oh yeah, you know how it is. Shit, it was fun. It wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty healthy for as far as some can go.
Favorite part of this story was that you were a choir kid in sixth grade. It's not surprising lore, but it's new lore to me.
Add to the book.
Add it.
In 6th grade is when High School Musical came out.
Ooh.
No
or
way.
between 5th and 6th grade transition.
That's what got you?
No. I wanted to do it because I knew all the girls would be in choir, and actually, two of the girls that I was friends with in choir, I talked to a lot at the reunion because I was like, oh yeah, it's really good to see you all again. That's how we became really close friends.
I reverse engineered a lot of your life, and I can now picture that entire semester.
Yeah,
updating the database.
It's
reconfiguring.
The choir teacher really wanted me to play the Troy Bolton in the choir talent show.
Should have.
And I was like, yeah, no, I did not fucking do that shit. I was like, yeah, I'll just learn everything and then not do it. I don't want to be on stage, and that was ironic because of where I ended up being. I ended up being a theater kid, but I wasn't ready to be a theater kid.
I was in the special theater, but then I dropped it for something right off the bat. The one that you have to get recommended or rehearsed to back in middle school in 8th grade.
But yeah, that's my lame life update. That's what I did. I did real life shit, and now I'm done. I have nothing scheduled. I think for the plan of June to leave my apartment.
This is
to go to work.
First time in a month and a half.
No, it's been almost 3 months.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's been fucking awful, mate. I think the only thing I have a haircut planned on one of these days, and that's it. I'm not fucking leaving.
But hey, I got to see you last weekend. That was pretty swell.
You did, and Willard got me hooked on something new that we're gonna talk about later.
Yeah, it was. I was gonna say, should I you know what? I'm not gonna say it.
It was interesting too, because I was like, "Hey, y'all, we're here early for dinner. Let's go to Common Ground," because I haven't been in a long time, so it's cool.
I was. Keep going.
I've been watching the Demon Slayer Sword Village arc. That's not bad. I feel bad for anybody who has to watch Demon Slayer pacing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is it too fast or too slow?
The entire series is so short, and the entire series is so short, so everything has to move really quick. So each episode is kind of action packed. Sometimes it's not. We just got to the point where Muichiro is in a bubble for 4 episodes, which is half the season so far. Yeah.
I thought we abandoned 4-episode bubble arcs in Naruto, but I guess we're still here.
No. It's literally the exact same bubble too. Like same
Well,
shit.
In Naruto is peak fiction. I don't think it would be as good here.
Oh no, it's a side character's arc to help him restore his memory. It's awful.
Yeah, we hit the apex of what a bubble arc could be back then. So
Yeah.
oh well.
And then I watched a trash anime that is I'm looking at Crunchyroll's like second most I'm looking at their popular page while I'm not logged in, and it's the second anime on there. People are giving it a 4.7 out of 5 stars, and I'm just this thing is shit.
Is it that Oshi no Ko thing?
No, it's I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world, 2.
I can't believe you don't watching this, Tyler. That sounds right up your alley.
I had some free time to blow off this week, and I just wanted to kind of sit away from my computer for a little bit. So I would rate this very high as a trash anime. It definitely belongs in the dumpster. If you watch this and find pure entertainment and like joy out of it, that this defines your life, I would say seek therapy. As my professional opinion, too. Like I'll double down.
And I'm not gonna disagree. I think I'll go down in the sinking ship with you. I think some of these series, if you watch all of them, your brain starts to decay.
Like it's like watching reality TV for anime. Like
even I have standards with reality TV, which is I will watch one trash every 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a half isekai show. At least the main character's not an edgelord. He's just he was like obese in Japan, which is like the worst thing you could be in life.
True.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could be in life is obese in Japan.
Look, we'll see it. Bottom 20.
Wait, if you're in an anime set in Japan, that's the worst thing you could be.
True, because they will let way worse things slide as a joke if you're in an anime. So that's true. But anywho, we'll do mine now.
Okay.
Speaking of worse things that slide in Japanese culture, I played Yakuza 4. And that's something I've been chipping away at for a little while, but I beat it recently. I was like, I have an opening between Tears of the Kingdom and Street Fighter release, so squeezed it in there. I really like this game. Their gimmick is the game is Yakuza 4, so there's 4 protagonists, and they each have an individual villain that they need to kind of tackle at the end of the story, and a overlying conspiracy that they're all kind of connected to at different ways or stages of like the history of this conspiracy. I've also downloaded 5, and I found out 5's gimmick is that they have 5 protagonists. So, okay.
Oh no.
Now I can tell you for a fact that 6 did not keep the trend. Even though I haven't played it, I know that at least. This is like in my Yakuza rankings, which is a series I like very much. But I like 3, 4, and 5 are like the PS3 ones that didn't get like remade. They got remastered, so they still have a lot of like early jank. And as a result, like the combat systems are not as most Yakuza game combat is fine. There's like 2 of them that I'd say the combat is actually quite good. But you play it mostly, but it's still a very fun combat system, and it's very hype when you're like in the boss fights and you're doing like the quick time events and you're doing kung fu against each other. Shit's hype, but these older ones don't have as much of that flair. So that'd be like 3 and 4 that I've played so far. And I'd say that I think I like 3 a little bit better because I like the central antagonist, while 4, because it has like 4 different antagonists, it kind of splits them up a little bit too much, so they're not as complex characters as like some of the other ones in the series. But But yeah, enjoyable game. There's a very yikes scene. I talked about a yikes scene, I think, in Yakuza 3, where one of the orphanage girls just says straight up, it's like, but I don't want to date a black kid. And you're like, okay, we're going there. All right.
Yeah.
And this one has a worse yikes scene than that, and I'm not going to explain it. And it sucks because it involves, like, ostensibly one of the best characters in the story. But it is what it is. This also has the most complex plot, and it relies on rubber bullets a lot as, like, plot devices.
Oof.
But you roll with it, whatever. The emotions are good, and the character development is good, so you just fucking YOLO. I'm excited to play 5. I hear it is very good, even though it is a massive game. I hear the peaks definitely make up for any valleys that the game has, so... But that's one I'll probably also take another, like, multiple months to get through slowly, because there's too many more central games coming out. I played 3 hours of Street Fighter this morning, because I woke up early to play it, because I did not last night. And man, just immediately I am in love with the game, like, now that I have the full package in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I did some of the world tour because I didn't do that in the other demo because I was like, I feel like there's no point. Very fun, actually. For like, I can't believe I'm saying that about a single player package of a fighting game, because I used to be the kind of person that's like, fuck it, don't put it in, just work more on the online and the characters. But it's like, no, this game is as popular as it is because of how it's appealing to the casual audience. And yeah, they actually made a very fun one. But also, like, the tutorial and combo trial modes are very good.
So good.
I don't know if you've messed around with that, Joe, but, like, have you gone through, like, Cammy's tutorials?
Yeah, I've gone through her basics, and I went through, like, the walkthrough, I guess, where, like, they show you what she can do, and then you can practice it if you want to.
Yes.
And then I went through the basic combo trials.
Those walkthroughs in particular, I think, are really good because they tell you, like, what each strength of your specials does and, like, when to use it, and, like, it basically tells you the game plan of your character in a very concise way.
Yeah.
And you're not going to remember all of it off the bat, but if you keep returning to it and, like, implementing piece by piece into your game plan, it's doing the job that you'd have to do, like, multiple dives through wikis and character discords to kind of get this information. But it's in the game now, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's what I think a lot of fighting games have been missing. It's like, just tell me what the character actually is supposed to do.
Tell me what you designed this motherfucker to do.
Yes.
And then I'll go from there. Like, that's...
Yeah.
And it does it really well. And the combos teach you, like, very important links that you need to incorporate into your game plan to take it up to the next step. And then as for, like, the online, I started playing a character that wasn't in the beta, so I'm playing Manon. And oh my god, I just, like... It feels so good when things go right with this character. Basically, the gimmick is she's a ballet judo hybrid character where she does very flowy ballet moves, and the more throws you land with her, the stronger they get. And it feels really good when you're on that 5th throw and you just take out, like, over a third of someone's health with one command grab. That last round against Manon is terrifying. I still have to play Lily. Joe, have you played a lot of this?
I played about an hour and a half the night that it came out when we got back from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then I played another hour today. So not a ton, but, like, it's basically what I'm going to be doing right after this.
We'll talk about it more next podcast. I just wanted to touchstone. I did want to ask what Tyler's very first impressions with Diablo 4 were.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like, Joe, is level cap 50?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm level 30, so I'm over halfway to 50. It's been nice so far. It's been fun. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know. I want to get to the main story like Joe is, but I'm also enjoying all the side quests. The side quests have some pretty interesting subplots. I would say as interesting as, like, we've praised Genshin Impact's, like, side quests. With the main caveat of they don't have like 8 pages of dialogue between you and an NPC to explain why carrots are orange, but not in the third Thursday of the 18th month of the summer solstice. Yeah, but it's been good so far. It's fun. It looks pretty. It's performing really well.
Man, I just want to say that in the beta, I had a terrible time because for performance for me was just like bad. Like it was really frustrating. And I don't know what they fucking did, but I don't get any of that now.
They fixed the game.
They fixed the game. It's very good. I'm glad.
But yeah, it's fun. I've got 2 characters. I've got 2 classes rolling. So I've got like one I'm playing by myself because I'm playing at my own pace, and another one that I'm playing with Kelly because this is her first Diablo experience.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. I'm here for the story and the world and playing everything up until like we beat the main quest. I don't know how much I'll probably play after that. I've never really played a Diablo after I beat the main quest, which is probably more surprising to Joe of why I'm doing everything before I beat the main quest. And that probably explains a lot.
I'll probably do the same. I'll just drop off after I beat the main quest as well.
I like to get more than 8 hours out of a game sometimes.
I think it'll last me more than 8 hours. I just like playing.
Debatable.
But Diablo 4 is supposed to be more of a live service game. So they're doing like seasons, and like every season's going to have more content for us to come back and play, which I think really matches this style of game very nicely.
Yeah. Something that is going on really well at the start is some of the bosses have been nice. Like they're not as generic as you would expect them to be. They have some actual mechanics into them. I've only encountered one like super bullet hell boss so far, and it was still pretty easy. Like all the projectiles only did status effects as opposed to damage, so it wasn't too bad. And like these bosses are like, it was like they send out a vertical, like they send out a line, and then it's like that line is like doing 360 spins as it like goes out. It's pretty wonky, but it's fun. It's fun. Can't complain.
And okay, cool. Surprised that people don't, or you, at least you guys, don't really get into the post game. It seems like a series that'd be kind of a post game series.
I did a lot of post game. Here's the thing: is that like I did play Diablo 3. That was my first really big Diablo game experience. And like the post game in that game just was not up to stuff. It was not a lot of fun. It literally was just replay the campaign again, but this time things are harder and you get better loot. And I just really did not like that.
This game has an entire post game already set up, like at launch.
Good. So you want that. You don't want that. You have to wait for a post game. You know.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I want to see what that is like. And that's kind of one of the other reasons why I'm trying to get through the main quest is like, what does your post game look like? Because that's going to really like make or break what your game is doing here, I think. But I also have opinions about that, but I don't want to go into it until I play more. So
the only thing that I have found like synergistic at all that like Joe wanted to know about is we've talked a lot. We talked previously about like class synergy and how characters don't really play with each other, you know? Like they all are just like, I'm going to do as much damage as possible to do everything.
Yeah.
Playing with other people, yeah, it's been pretty fun, and they scale the enemies quite nice to where they're a little bit beefier. So things, you know, like they do require a little bit more effort. But playing with somebody who has never played the game before and like playing a tank class is which is the barbarian, like they are tankier than all the others. You can still do all the damage with them, but you can also do like crowd control stuff too. So doing like a more passive role with somebody who's never played a game like this before, it is making a lot more fun than normal.
Nice.
Than we did talk about like in the beta.
That is a positive. One last thing I wanted to bring up before we move on to the proper things is continued Bleach. I read every once in a while, and I'm in the Rancor arc, which is like the third big arc in Bleach. I love this arc, and I just wanted to kind of say that on the podcast because This is
Get it
probably
on the
where
record.
get it on the record, let it be known, because I think this is an arc where it's like a little more polarizing than the Soul Society that everyone likes. I think I like this arc like a fair chunk more than the Soul Society. Like this might be a 5 out of 5 arc for me because it's doing character stuff that I think is really good and I think kind of subtle and can be overlooked, and it's kind of bussin'. That's all I'll say. I'm looking forward to finishing it. I'm like, Joe, I don't think you ever got to this one, right? So
I don't think no, I didn't.
Ichigo is fighting the Kenpachi kind of equivalent of the arc, where it's like it's not the final boss. It's like the midway point, or maybe closer to mid half.
The actual entertaining fight of the arc, not the. That's my opinion of Bleach, is that it's always like the second to last person that Ichigo fights is more fun than the actual last person in that fight.
Byakuya's fight was good in Soul Society, but hot take, I'm not a big fan of Byakuya, but let's not get into it. So, we have blocks. We have like 3 consecutive blocks. First, we got the Tyler random movie block, and then we got Joe's board game block, and then we got a book block. So, Tyler,
we're blocking.
We're blocking. Tell me about Storks and Evil Dead Rise, a very good 1-2 punch of horror.
Dude, yeah, okay, so, Storks, it's like this, I don't even know when the movie actually fucking came out, like 2014?
2016.
2016?
Damn, that's old.
Storks is a movie about storks.
No.
Who, it's about the myth of storks, where they used to deliver babies.
Mm-hmm.
And now they run Amazon. And, they're the Amazon service of this world.
Is this like an animal world, or
Did I hear everything correctly?
Nope. It's a human world where
Let me show you the poster.
where storks run Amazon.
Yeah, it's funny enough, I saw this trailer. I'm like, that's kind of a cute premise. I kind of like that.
Did I hear everything correctly?
I wasn't picturing an animated movie. I was picturing like it's real ass people, and I was like, what a zany concept.
This sounds like a Wes Anderson AI generated movie.
No, exactly.
The main voice actor, the main character is voiced by Andy Samberg.
Nice.
Okay.
And he is a stork who works at Amazon, or whatever the bird Amazon is. And he's like all got these like he never misses a package delivery. He's the best one there. And it's like very weird politically wise. Like
What?
It's definitely what an 8-year-old's imagination of what the corporate world is like.
Okay.
Where he's like, he does really good at his job, so he's gonna be the next boss.
Okay.
Like he's the best bird delivery at Amazon, so he's gonna be the next boss. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty funny. That's not how it fucking works at all.
That's cute, kid. I see this is the Boss Baby universe then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fucking, dude, y'all. This movie is fucking wild. I don't even know. So some other notable voice actors in this movie. Let's go down this list. We have Kelsey Grammer.
Yep. Sideshow Bob.
Yeah. Who voices a character named Hunter, which I think is the child of Jennifer Aniston and Ty Burrell, which Ty Burrell is the dad from
Modern Family.
Modern Family.
Oh,
Like
that's
the
good.
goofy dad.
Oh, I love him.
He's great.
It's literally just the goofy dad. Like in this animated movie, he is also a real estate agent who just wants to hang out with his son and just like it's just the dad from Modern Family.
Wow.
Typecast.
He's been typecast, yeah, that's what to say.
Yeah.
Real estate mogul dad.
Okay, so there's a couple of weird characters in this movie. So the plot of this movie is they have, like, if Junior, the main character, Andy Samberg, 18 years ago, when the storks used to deliver babies still, one of the storks went crazy and tried to keep a baby. and he broke the tracker on accident, like that tells them where they're supposed to deliver the baby to, and because of that, like they fired him and like put him away. So
tragic.
Then they stopped delivering babies after that because that guy went insane. So 18 years later, Junior is going to be up for the promotion for boss, but he has to fire the baby that they kept 18 years later because she's now 18. They can release her out into the world because the Storks have been raising this inhuman child
Tyler,
for the past 18 years.
Tyler, I have a very important question.
They can talk to each other.
No, if the Storks stop delivering baby, is
Yeah.
humanity at a standstill as far as birth goes?
Nope. It is explained in the movie that that's not like Storks just don't deliver babies anymore. That's just it's just not done.
We
know
are
capitalism.
now dying as a species.
No. A different race took
There's
over.
a son in the movie who's like 8 years old. This child was born naturally. He was just not delivered by a stork.
The Storks had too many lawsuits they had to settle, so they're like, we're just not going to do babies anymore.
Essentially, yeah.
Basically, they turned off the radar signal that stopped women from getting birth. Is that what
So actually, it's very explained earlier on. What happens is he can't fire her because she's like really like nerdy and like quirky, and he's just like feels sorry for her. So instead of firing her, he puts her in the mailroom. Okay. So the mailroom is like Santa's workshop, where everybody from around the world sends mail to the Storks, but instead of getting presents, they get babies. And babies were delivered via snail mail back like 20 years ago. And so she gets a letter from the main the like main kid in the movie that he wants a new baby brother, and she puts it in the factory for where like you like put the mail slot. You put the mail in a slot and magic happen. A magic giant machine sprouts out of the earth and makes a baby.
Okay.
So this factory has been closed off.
What?
And she goes in there because nobody works in the mailroom because they don't get snail mail anymore. And she makes a baby, and they're like, "What the fuck? What'd you do? What did you do?" And it's only her and Andy Samberg know about it. So now they're like, "All right, we have to deliver this baby, and we can just pretend this never happened, and we can just go along our merry way." So that's the journey of the movie: is they have to deliver the baby. That's like first 15 minutes of the movie.
I'm like unreasonably bothered by like birth in this universe, but let's move on.
It's a wild story after that, and there are like some like the speed bumps along the way are like the old bird who wanted to keep the child shows back up, voiced by Danny Trejo. There are some wolves who love the baby and want to keep it and raise it as a wolf, voiced by Key and Peele. And I swear to God, there is like entire chunks of this movie where they just let Key and Peele write what their characters do. It is the most insane fucking thing I've seen like people do in an animated movie where they're just like, yeah, what if we just did this and then we made them do this and then like we just kept that joke going, and you're like, yeah, that would be fucking hilarious. Like it feels like the comedy of a well-rounded 14-year-old kid who draws comics and is like, yeah, that's fucking funny, man. Like that's fucking funny. And you just sit there and you're like, what? It is a wild ride. Aquafina's in the movie. Jorma Taccone's in the movie of The Lonely Island. The main actress who voices the other girl is her name is Katie Crown. And she's like an actual voice actress. She's not like a real-time actor. Like she is a actual professional voice actress, which she is a great like supporting or like main like secondary main character in the movie.
Nice.
But yeah, I would recommend watching this movie because you will not be able to predict what fucking happens in it. It is a wild ass animated movie.
So you sold me a little bit. Maybe I'll add it to the list.
I just You can put it on in the background, and it'll get to a point to where you just stop whatever you're doing and be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Lovely. Sounds like a perfect Street Fighter background noise.
Yeah. Oh, second movie. We went and watched Rise of the Evil Dead, which is not a prequel or sequel to any of the original Walking Dead trilogies, nor is it an adaptation of the TV series or an expansion of the 2013 revive of the original Walking Dead.
You're saying Walking Dead. Do you mean Evil Dead?
Evil Dead.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yeah. So Evil Dead Rise takes place in the same universe. The main point of the movie is, are you all familiar with the Evil Dead franchise?
No, I just know it has a guy named Ash with a shotgun, and people love him.
So for, I guess, Bradley and Willard, who don't know.
I'll say I only know about Ash with the shotgun, and I only know about that because of Spelunky.
Me too!
The main plot of the Evil Dead is there's a book called the Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead.
Right.
Where passages are read from it, and then it summons demons who possess people. And that's kind of it. The demons have a name. They're called Deadites, which is a neat thing. And the movie is kind of a test, as it came out in the 80s, it was a testament to what they could do with physical makeup and blood and splatter. Because it wasn't even really, I guess for the time it could probably be considered grotesque, but it wasn't graphic, if that makes sense. It was every scene could have been related to the blood elevator scene from The Shining. Because half the movie, I think the main character Ash runs around covered in blood and is fighting stuff. So it was very interesting to see, because for the time, slashers and everything exists, but I guess because of how they were limited at the time, makeup wise, CGI wise, it's a different time of what we watch now, because now things are so much more realistic. We have the Saw franchise when it comes to torture porn and what can be graphically shown in movies. Yeah. So it was really interesting to see, and it was a little, I guess, jarring at times, but I don't think spiritually unfaithful, to just see how bloody the movie is. And it's great though, because I first of all, I'm going to say this is a really good spiritual successor to the Evil Dead. They make it suspenseful, they make it gory, and they make it silly. And that's what the Evil Dead is all about. It's all about making you disgusted and why would this happen?
So the trailers in this one look kind of intense. So does it keep some of the campiness, silliness?
It absolutely does. It paces it all out very well. There are a lot of moments where it's good suspense. You're not on the edge of your seat or really scared or anything, but it's a fun movie. It's a wild ride, and I think it balances everything out really well. Action, pacing, the reason for the movie existing, or the main reason why bad things are happening. It's not the worst excuse in the world I've seen for a setup for a movie problem. It's very similar to the original Walking Dead Evil Dead movie, where they find the evil book, and then they have an audio device that is talking about reading the passages from the book, and they do some cool stuff where you're why, what happens is the kid finds a book, an earthquake. It's set in New York it's set in California, in LA, and they're in an old building, and they set up to cover all the points of why the book is there potentially. It's in an underground bank vault, and it's one of the 3 books that exist for the Book of the Dead, because the first original series is like, yeah, this is the Book of the Dead. And it's like, oh no, there's 3 because they're gonna make more movies about it.
Maybe that's. I heard people didn't like the start or the setup, and that maybe it's because it's like sequel bait.
No, I don't think people liked They did one of those bits where they show the end of the movie and then go 2 days earlier, and it has nothing to do with the first 10 minutes of the movie. But the reason why they do that is because it's just a subtle nod to like kids. The very beginning, first 5 minutes of the movie is a couple of teenagers at a cabin in the woods, and there's a lake nearby. So it's like a combo of Evil Dead and Friday, and like, is it Friday? Not Friday the 13th. What's Jason's movie? Is it Friday the 13th?
Yes.
What is Freddy's movie?
Oh my god, I've been muted the entire time. It is Friday the 13th.
Okay.
No, wait, hold on. What is Freddy's movie?
Freddy's movie
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes.
Okay.
So
I know these more than y'all. Y'all are the ones that watch horror movies all the time.
So it's but you have that nice like rich like classic Indiana Jones, Freddy, Jason. They're all in that same era.
True.
Fair. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So it starts off as like cabin in the woods, like here's the teenagers. And I think that's just a subtle nod at it. And then they go to LA. They do a different setting. And I'm just like I don't get why that upsets people, to be honest. It doesn't detract from the movie at all.
Would I like this movie if I haven't seen any of the other movies and don't really plan on?
I would say the movie might be jarring for you.
I think you should give it a shot.
Absolutely, go for it. I think but there are some moments where it's like you're like, oh my god, that was so stupid. Like that is just the silliest thing I've ever seen for a person to die.
I watch a lot of jarring stuff, so my concern is that you said there's a death here worse than the bathroom or the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2, and I don't believe you.
You should find out for yourself.
Yeah, I guess I will.
There are a lot of moments where I looked away from the screen.
Okay, me too. Terrifier 2.
Because I was like, ugh, I don't want to see someone use that object in the kitchen on the other person.
I could take that. I could take an object or 2, maybe even 3.
Watch it.
Could take an object.
All right, quote it, clip it.
Just watch it for me. It's a good movie, and I what I mean by jarring is there's a lot of inside jokes between people who know the original trilogy and this movie.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. But...
You may not get those things, but I don't think you'll it may also just be you experiencing it for the first time too. Like it is very good in the way that it's this is how the first movie set up too in terms of weirdness. Like,
oh my god, Tyler, you saying that just reminded me about the fucking Hunger Games prequel. There's 1 or 2 moments where they say some shit that it's like, I don't know, someone starts like a rumor in the Capitol and someone says the rumor is, and then they look at the camera even though it's a book and they go, catching fire.
Shut up.
I'm telling you, I read it and I was like, all right.
Do you know President's favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird? Wait, Mockingjay. Fuck.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, continue.
So seeing 2 horror movies in theaters this year, Skinamarink and Rise of the Evil Dead. Rise of the Evil Dead definitely a lot better.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see if it makes me feel something, which is nothing, which is something.
Yeah.
Which could be something.
Maybe. All right, Joe, it's time. Lay it on me.
All right.
Just kill me.
Okay, so once again, welcome to the least listened to section of the podcast where I talk about board games.
Sure, I looked at the stats.
Yeah.
I did not look at the stats.
We haven't had a board game night in a long time, so I've been getting my board game fix off of Board Game Arena, which is a web-based app you can go on and play board games with people. So I have some board games here. I'm going to run through them from games that I probably won't put in my collection to games that I want to put in my collection for sure.
Yes, and then board game night we will reconvene.
Yes. So the first one is It's a Wonderful World. This is a game very similar to Seven Wonders, where basically you have like resources and then you like use them to like build cards. But what's different from Seven Wonders is that in Seven Wonders you play the thing immediately and you immediately get its effect. Whereas in this, you have to like try to space out cards because you generate resources in a different step. So like for example, instead of like getting wood immediately, you would produce all your wood in one step, and you would have to allocate it to the buildings you want to build. And once that building is completed, you get to put it into your stack. And then if that building's resource is brought up in another step later, you can immediately use that resource, which is an interesting concept.
I'm unsold immediately because
I really didn't enjoy this that much. I was just kind of clicking around and trying it out. But Seven Wonders is a good game, and it's not one of my like games that I personally enjoy too much.
Fuck you.
I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying that like if you were to give me a selection of games, I wouldn't mention Seven Wonders unless for like specific people. But I think Seven Wonders like blows this game out of the water easily. I think it's way better, and I would much prefer it than this game entirely. So moving on from there, I have Wingspan. So Wingspan took the board game scene by storm when it came out a few years ago. This is a game it's about collecting birds. You're making a bird sanctuary.
That's cute as hell.
Yeah, it's great art. And I've seen it on display and touched it and felt it. It's got some great like physicality to it. And basically the way the game works is that you purchase birds and you put them into 3 different rows. Like you have a forest row, a plains row, and a water row. And when you put birds there, you can activate the row. So then all your birds like trigger and you get bonuses for the birds that are in that row. So you kind of end up making this bird engine, essentially. And use your birds to generate more points and play more birds and get more food and lay more eggs. Very, very cute game. It's a Stonemeyer's game, so it's a very balanced game. But I would also say that it's a game that like I think doesn't have anything really interesting in terms of other games that I play.
It seems like Azul, but with birds. Like the gameplay has nothing to do with birds, but that's cool. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and like it's a good game. It's really solidly designed. I just find that like, and I realize this is that like the same thing with It's a Wonderful World. Is that I like a lot of games that have like interactivity where like everyone's looking at the same board and they're like people are touching the board and using the board, and there's a little bit of like diffusion and players are just like kind of manipulating it in some way. You have to think about what your players are going to do, the other players are going to do on their turn, and how their turns may affect you. It's a good game. It's just not something that I particularly want to like have, but I'm up to play it. The next one is called Arc Nova. This is a more recent game that a lot of people have really, really liked. I can really see why. This is pretty much just like pretty much the Zoo Tycoon, the board game, where everyone has their own board that they're going to use to build out a zoo, and very much similar to Wingspan, you purchase these animals and you have to like develop the enclosure in a specific way, put the animals in that enclosure, and when you do, that animal gives you an effect that can help like trigger an engine off.
Yo, that sounds fun. I want to play this.
I think you would really, really like Arc Nova, Tyler. It's got some great systems. It has like this whole sponsorship effect where it's like you have to like, also like get sponsors for your zoo and partner up with like other zoos around the world to like make sure you can get these animals in. And it's a really great game. The problem I have with this game is that for the duration it takes, I just don't get nearly as much fun from it. Like I play a two-player game of this game on Board Game Arena, and it takes 2.5 hours, which is fucking crazy. Like this game takes so long to get going, but it's got some great pieces and engines to it. Definitely, I think I would enjoy it more in person than like over the internet. But it's one of those games where it's like it's really long, it's really big, and it's really expensive. So I don't particularly I'm not really that eager or that like hastily wanting to get into my collection, but I definitely want to get in there at one point.
Seems fun.
It seems like a lot. It's a real lot of fun. This next game, I just want to double check that I'm sticking to my list here. Yeah, this next game I actually do own. I just haven't had a chance to play it with a lot of people yet. It's called Lost Ruins of Arnak. This is a deck building work placement game. Where basically you're building this deck for your explorers camp to go out and explore these different ruins on this board and collect treasure to like boost your score up and score more victory points while researching the ruins. And there's also these big giant guardians you have to go kill. I really like this game as like gameplay wise, like building the decks, the worker placement, allocating resources, take all of those boxes that I really, really like. The big thing here is that I'm a huge like adventure Indiana Jones kind of fan and really like that theme. I don't think that theme works really well with this type of game. It's got some great art and everything. It's just there's a bit of a clash there, I think, in terms of what I want from an adventure themed game versus like a deck building like worker placement game. But it's really fun. This game is super quick. I play with like 4 people online. It takes 45 minutes. It's actually kind of wild. Very fun game. Really like it a lot. This last game, however, it's up there after playing it several times. Like this game is called A Feast for Odin. This is on the complexity level of Food Chain Magnate.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way this works is that everyone has a board called a thing, which is like basically the actual Norse term for like a small village of Vikings. And on this thing, there is a grid layout where like it's like a Tetris grid kind of thing, where there's a bunch of -1s across the whole board, and the goal is to have the most points at the end of the game. And so what you end up doing is you have to collect these puzzle pieces that you put into your thing that like allow you to cover up more spaces on your board, letting you go up and up and up and score more points and not taking that negative benefit. The trick to this is that it's a worker placement game where everyone is working off of this same board, and so you're having to like share and allocate your workers on these actions, because if someone takes one action in a round, no one else is allowed to take that action in the round until the round is over. So they take up.
Isn't that how it is in like Imperium?
In Twilight Imperium?
Yeah.
Kind of. Not
Where
really.
You have those like allocation cards.
It's a little bit like that, yeah. But the difference is that like you get a group of like workers that you have to put, and each different task requires a different amount of workers. So like if you want to go hunt a fox, you only need 1 worker. But if you want to go out and catch a fucking whale, you have to make sure you have the right boat, and you have to allocate 3 workers to it. And you're only given so many workers every round. So you have to really like judge your resources and like really think about like, okay, I need to do this task, and once I do that task, that allows me to do this task. But if that task gets covered up, what am I doing with this resource? And there's a bunch of other rules I'm not covering in here, but like the most interesting part of this game is getting these Tetris pieces and putting them on your board, and then having to think about like how you're going to get those pieces, how you're going to put them on your board, and how are you going to develop your thing more and more, where you start building this engine where at the start of every round you get a whole bunch of more resources that you can then spend to get even better resources to put onto your board and make your thing better. And you also collect other like smaller pieces of board that have negative points on them that you want to cover up, that get you more stuff. It's a really complex game. I could not imagine teaching this game. It seems like a nightmare. But like as soon as I have the funds and I can find this fucking game, I really want to get into my collection, because it hits everything that I want in a board game, and it gives me like the feeling of playing Food Chain Magnate with like close to none of the anxiety, because there's so many options and you're not like locked in. But I still feel that like that edge and that worry of like, what is Willer going to do that's going to cuck me this turn, and how am I going to react to it? And I really like that.
Boys weekend for this game?
Maybe. This game is very long though. That being said, it is a long
caveat.
game.
Well, as long as like Food Chain, or
as long as Food Chain at minimum.
So that is a 4 to 5 hour banger.
Yes. But I really, really like it. It is definitely a game where like I will sit there and just play it and not worry about it. But those are my board games that I've been playing.
Man, Lost Ruins of Arnak is like, every time I see it, I'm like, God, that looks fun. But yeah. I know it has my least favorite mechanic ever in anything.
Worker placement?
I fucking hate worker placement.
I really like it. I think that game's got a lot to it. I think more than you start playing it at first. You're like, there's not a lot going on here, and then you start realizing there's a lot of like key strategies and like routes that you need to go, and how you're going to adjust to it. I like the game, but I think Feast of Odin does it way better, as well as Food Chain Magnate does it way better. But Food Chain Magnate is the work placement game. Anyways, those are the board games I got. Definitely look for Feast of Odin sometime soon, showing up in my closet. Sit there.
In a board game night near you.
Yeah.
Next time you host Twilight Imperium, you should coerce Bradley into coming up, because I want him to suffer for a day.
You should.
Just like he had to do at Disney World.
What? You don't suffer at Disney World.
No one does.
Unless you're our friends that did suffer.
Yes.
The deepest condolences and rest in pieces. So,
Yeah.
we got the book segment. We did have 3 books here, but we did move the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. So, I'm going to go first to break up the Joe sandwich.
Okay.
So I've read 1 book, and I'm about 4th way through the sequel of that book. So the book is called In the Woods, and it is a detective story in a series called The Dublin Murder Squad, which is, I've now learned, I know, kind of a goofy, fun name. They don't actually murder anyone. They research the murders. That's what they call it. This is a very Irish book, especially the second one. I just really like Irish accents, so I quite enjoy it. But the first one's read by a British-sounding dude for reasons that are plot relevant, but these are Irish stories. Set in about 2004, I think, is when this one's set. This is one of the most hooked I've been books ever, especially the first chapter in particular. I think does a really good job at hooking you. And what it does is it introduces the main character and his best friend in just an immediately really captivating way, where immediately the characters are really well fleshed out and complex, and it just goes from there. So I guess there's 2 premises, right? So there's the main character who's called Rob. That's not his real name. His real name's Adam Ryan, and he doesn't go by that name anymore because when he was a child, he was the age of 12, him and 2 of his friends ran into the woods, and 2 of them got murdered. He was the only survivor, and he doesn't remember anything about the incident. And he kind of goes through life coping with that, and it's interesting because by his own admission, he's like, it's not like why this is the reason I became a detective or anything, or like after the first few months or years I became a well-adjusted person. It's what he'll tell you, but as you go through the book, you're like, oh, this guy is like deeply broken, and like in a way that even he doesn't recognize.
I like that kind of stuff.
It's fantastic, and another great reason why the introduction's so strong is after that you get introduced to Cassie, who is his partner in the force. He's about 30, I think, and Cassie's 28. She's a female murder squad member, which is a rare thing, so, you know, there's the sexism that comes along and the conspiracy theories to how she climbed up to be as high as she is. And what's really nice is that they establish, like, a tremendous platonic friendship that you never see in pretty much anything. Like, these 2 are so close with one another, and their bond is really palpable as you're going through it. So, the murder kicks off as a body is discovered in the same woods that he got lost in as a child in an archaeologist dig that happened there. And because he's hidden his past identity from even his superiors, and like he's basically like no one knows he's Adam Ryan or that there would be any connection to the crime, he's allowed to investigate, and there's a overarching tension of like, hey, but we can't let them figure out that you are kind of compromised for this crime. And the actual mystery is quite good. The suspects are really good. The antagonist of the book is so good, and there's this. I found out later that this book is very polarizing.
Oh.
Incredibly polarizing. I fucking loved it. It's one of my favorite books I've ever gone through. But I can totally understand why. If you're the kind of person where when the main character does something really bad and that ruins the book for you, this book will sour very much around the 70% mark because the main character does a tremendous fuck up. And it's only the first tremendous fuck up of that last stretch of the book because holy shit, it gets bad. It's so good. Like, the ending is the other reason why I think people may not like it. I don't know if any of you would be interested in this book, and I don't know if I should spoil it or even hint at it. But I could see the ending leaving people very upset. I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite endings, and it's like the mystery is solved, but kind of ending, and it's really, really good. And I immediately downloaded the second book. I had no idea what to expect. What I could expect was that the second book follows Cassie in an investigation after that. So now I've learned that the series kind of introduces characters in this Dublin murder squad, and then we'll jump into another character as the main character for the next book. And for reasons that happen in the first book, Cassie and Rob are no longer partners, so you get to see like how that's impacted Cassie. So anytime Rob is brought up, I'm like, ooh. And the second book's called The Likeness, and the concept of this one is fucking bonkers, okay? So the reason why Cassie got into the murder squad to begin with is because she was such a good undercover cop in her, like, mid-20s. And it kind of shot her up, and she got into, like, such a tough situation where she got, like, stabbed by someone she was going undercover with. It got her leverage to get into the murder squad. So because of that, she constructed very intense false identities in the past. And now that she's not in the murder team anymore, she's doing domestic violence. Her boyfriend, who now is still in the murder squad, calls her. It's like, Cassie, you need to come check out this body. Please come as soon as you can. And when she gets there, she finds out it is someone who looks exactly like her, with the identification of one of her old past undercover selves.
Whoa.
And so Frank, who is the person who was her superior in the undercover days, are like, wait, we have the opportunity to do something very funny right now. What we're going to do is we're going to have Cassie pretend she's the person who was murdered. We'll say that she survived the murder and is intensive care. She's going to return to the house, her flat, or like she lives in a beautiful house with four other graduate level English majors. They're all like in their late 20s, and she was one of them, or the deceased girl who took her fake identity is one of them. So they're like, hey, what if you just pretend to be her, go back in there, and you will have an unprecedented way to get directly at the people who would be most likely to want to kill you. And her boyfriend is like, fuck that! She's just gonna get killed even, like, again, by the people who were targeting her for whatever reason. And also, like, there's the layer of, if this girl got a false identity, what the fuck is she running from her past? So she has to... I just got to the part where she's at the house. The dynamics of, like, the group is so intoxicating, where, like, they're the quirkiest, like, most quick-witted, like, closest knit friend group. And I'm just waiting for that shit to unravel. And I'm just waiting for them to start asking Cassie questions that she has no reason to know. She's playing, like, the... I have amnesia and I'm recovering from the intensive care, but that will only take her so far, right? So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. So deeply addicted. Like, I don't know if I might recommend this to Joe. I think Bradley would really like the characters, but I don't know if you're much of a murder mystery kind of guy, Bradley.
That's the thing. I love murder mysteries, but I kind of like it. All the murder mysteries I like, I feel like have some element of like supernaturalness to them.
You should read the first book.
Okay, let's fucking go.
In the Woods is what it's called. There is a little bit of hint of Irish folklore bullshit going on in that first book, and in the second one, I think the setup is just so weird and intriguing. And there's like 5 or 6 of these books, so it's like, where do we go from here? I don't know. I would love to return to Rob one day because where they leave that guy off, I am so intrigued, but I'm afraid we won't. Or if we do, it'll be like a future book. So I'm in there. I've already downloaded two. I might take a break after the second one to like hit up another series. I've been meaning to read East of Eden or like The Count of Monte Cristo for a long time. Those are bigger books. These are nice because they're 20-hour books, which is really nice because when you're reading at 1.5, it goes down to like 16. You get that. Probably you would finish these books in like 2 to 3 work weeks just by getting them during your drives, for example. So
Sweet.
yeah, recommend, and to you as well, Joe. I think you would just like the character stuff, and I think you do like murder mysteries, so highly recommend. Now, Joe, tell me about the Lost City of Z and the Grace of Kings.
Okay, so I got into a weird funk. And I was like, I haven't read a book in like a year, maybe a year and a half. I think a year, really. And I was like, I want to go read a book. And I went to our wonderful YouTube booktuber that we like to watch, Murphy Napier, watch her latest video. And I want to tell a small story about this book, about me fighting it. She recommended this book called The Wager that just came out. But this guy wrote a book called The Lost City of Z. It's like, oh, okay, I want to get The Lost City of Z because it seems more up my alley. And so I go to the bookstore, and I am wandering around this bookstore for like an hour looking for this book. I like talk to the freaking people that work there, the cashiers. I use the system. I can't find this fucking book anywhere. And I'm like, maybe I'll just grab a fiction book and I'll leave. I'm looking at the fiction section. And I turn around and I hit a table I didn't see before. And I look down there. And there it fucking was, the Lost City of Z, which is a perfect metaphor for this book, because this book is about the last ever Victorian explorer, Percy Fawcett, and his exploration to find the Lost City of Z in the Amazonian jungle, and his lost expedition. And it's a great book, and just it paints the picture of all the elements that drove this real life man to go and hunt down this ghost story of a city that's been like legends for years, all the evidence and work that he did, and just basically not only like putting all of his personal finances on it, but dragging his own firstborn son Jack into the expedition, as well as his best friend Jack, and they go into the jungle and are never heard from again. This is one of my favorite like nonfiction books I've ever read my entire life. It's the way that this guy like paints a picture of the story is that he just makes it feel so fantastical. It's so real. And like he goes down to like what this man went through and like how like it propped him up and how he kind of like developed and like how it affected his psyche and like how, you know, it affected the rest of the world and development. And it's just a great book and weirdly great character story of a man from this time period, his own personal views and where the world was going and how it forced them, because it takes place in like 1925. So it's a big transitional period of like going from the like 1800s kind of feeling of like that Victorian era society to more modern society of like post World War I, the automobile, communications like more relevant than ever and like becoming a more modern society, and this man like struggling to be in this transition period and trying to maintain who he was in the past while trying to make a man of himself in this like new modern future. At the same time, it's a parallel story of the author himself deciding that he's going to do his own expedition to see where this guy went and go into the Amazonian jungle. And just like what he like did to prepare and like where he went and what he discovered. And the most recent, before this guy's expedition, this guy's like trip, which took place back in 2005, the last known like trek to go into the Amazonian jungle to find the remains of this man happened in 1995. And almost everyone died in that expedition. So like that's how
in
crazy
real life?
like in real, like this is a nonfiction book. Like a guy in 1995 went out there to go find this man, or like what happened to him, and was captured by natives, and they're like, "We're going to kill you."
Oh my Jesus Christ!
Yes, and it's this book is wild. I really recommend y'all like reading it. it's such a fantastic, like a fascinating look into like society back then, and like, you know, how much like we have to like we take for granted in terms of like what we have now in terms of GPS and like air conditioning and modern medication and just like know-how, and like how he kind of like pioneered the standards that we need to like for these kind of recreational quote unquote visits into like nature. And the way that guy like describes the jungle, like he describes it as this vicious, malevolent thing that is trying to excise anybody that tries to penetrate it.
Oh, I
It's
love that
really-
kind of characterization to like,
Yeah.
wilderness and stuff. That's really cool.
Sounds like
Yeah.
my ex-girlfriend.
You ain't gonna do that.
I think y'all would really like this book. It's a nonfiction book, I know, but the way the guy writes it, it doesn't feel like a teacher telling you facts. It feels like a story that is actually being told by like one of your friends about like what happened to them and like how it led up to that, and it transitions like beautifully into the modern setting. It's just great. I was enthralled. I read this book in about 8 hours. It's a 320 page book or something like that. Great overall. And then it was so good I picked up his most latest book, The Wager, that I'm kind of using as my bedtime story. Not going nearly as quickly, but I'll update y'all when I finish that one, but it's real good. In addition, I went ahead and got an audiobook called The Grace of Kings, which
I was just gonna watch a Murphy video where she talks about this.
Yeah, so like I watched that video as well, and she explained, and like it really got me hooked and got me intrigued. So The Grace of Kings, I can't like describe it any less than an actual fantasy epic. In the most literal term of just like this book is an exploration and its celebration of the culture of not only the fantasy world that this book takes place in, but of the inspiration of that of where that fantasy comes from, which is primarily China and primarily the Three Kingdoms time period of China. So where do I even begin with this book? This is a book about basically a Hawaiian-like state where like there's a big island and then several smaller islands around this nation where, you know, this emperor comes in and he's just conquered all the islands. He's like, I've done it. I've unified everything. We're going to progress gloriously into like the future, and we're going to become a one nation society. Only to then go into a dream and be in the courtroom of the gods of the islands themselves, discussing like, all right, well that finished. We can't let this happen. So we've all agreed we're just going to go to war with each other, right? Yeah, we're just going to tear the whole thing apart.
Sure.
Yeah, and he's like, what? No. And he's like, nah, that's too bad. You're dying. And so that's kind of like the weird fantasy catalyst of this whole thing. And this book was phenomenal. Ken Liu, who wrote this book, did a lot of short stories before he wrote this. And you can really tell from this book, because a lot of the stories that take place, a lot of the chapters that take place in this book are very much just like small localized events of people that happen within like 10 to 12 pages. But like within that, you get a whole scope of who this person is, the struggle they are going through during this time period of revolution and war and rebellion, and like how it affects them, but not only them, but the entire scope of this war that is going on. And so you get all these different perspectives, and did a lot with war and a lot of like just like consequences of leading. And like the other great thing is that I think Ken Liu does a morally gray characters like phenomenally, like actually very much just like multiple times, like you're looking at your protagonists and you're just like, I want to root for you. And I think you're the best person for this job, but there's just so many missteps and so many things you're doing that are just dishonorable or like underhanded that like kind of like make you question like you as a person, but you as a leader I can get behind.
It's a fine line to cross, right?
Yes. And like Cooney is like who's the main character of this book, is such an interesting character to explore, because he starts off as not a peasant boy, but like pretty much just like a poor individual who's really smart, he's really clever, he's really charming, but like, and he knows themselves like, I can accomplish more, but I really don't want to harm people in doing so. And like, as he tries to like, and his whole story is basically him like compromising his own character every few years to like just like get what he wants. And it's just truly like one of those things that like really grip me. The other thing about this story is that like it doesn't take place over a course of years. It's like a 20-year long like tale, which I thought was really cool. So you get like an actual natural progression of things happening within this like society and the growth, and you get to see like Cooney go from like a 16-year-old boy to like a 45-year-old man. It's really phenomenal. I think all of y'all would enjoy it. I will say, with Willer on your last book, you mentioned how like the main character can do something and it could really turn you off to a book. Mm-hmm. That's also in this book. Also at the like 70% mark, that made me kind of go like, I don't know what you're really going for here or what you're trying to accomplish with this. But I think part of that is that he's really trying to capture that Three Kingdoms like cultural period and the vibe that like, you know, this is how people acted and this is like how like ancient society goes, because this is the first book of a series of books. And the series is called the Dandelion Dynasty. So like the first book is about Cooney, and then the second book is about his descendants, and then the third book is about their descendants, and the fourth book is about their descendants. So I think it's about overall the change of this country as a whole.
Now, do people hate that though, as far as you've seen, if you've looked into it? Because
from what I've seen, people love everything about it, basically. And people say like the first book is like the worst book, which is crazy to me, because I really like this book a lot. And I just finished it like probably like 2 hours ago. The other thing I should asterisk star this mention is that like this book does sometimes read like a history book, like you're being told things, but I think that's just because the author really wants to like, here's what happens, but now I'm telling you this very bluntly so I can get into the focus of like what I want to like explore personally for this person. But it's great. I really enjoyed it. It's a great audiobook that I listened to. It's about 21 hours long, so nothing crazy. But yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay. Tyler, I'm guessing you didn't get around to Ted Lasso Season 3 finale?
I did not. But I can add on to the end of the book segment.
Oh, shit. Impromptu pact.
I am at arc 15, like 0.6 of possession. And I just hit a really big point in this point in the book. Yeah. So Blake is inside Rose as a spirit.
Oh man, that shit is wild.
And he is getting his shit rocked around by
Conquest.
Fucking Conquest. Conquest is back. And it's like,
never left.
Like, this is what makes it crazy, is he's like, I am just a fragment. I am not actually Conquest. He's like, he's getting killed by, like, Conquest's, like, one section of his pinky toe. You know how, like, your fingers have, like, sections that it looks like on them?
Yeah.
It's like the nubbin of Conquest is beating his ass.
And now remember the main rule of the book. It always gets worse.
Yeah. Oh my god. Dude, arc 15 and 16 are so good.
So Blake is fighting back against Conquest inside of Rose, and it's very interesting because I just got to the end of it, and it's like he takes all of his human memories and experiences, and like I remember earlier on in the book, he's like, man, I just wish you could like understand what I'm going through. Like, you do not know what I've been through. And that's like what they used to fight about all the time. Yeah. Is Blake would constantly look at Rose and be like, you don't know what I've fucking been through. Like, you had a very cushy life. And just, it's crazy how after everything, like the revelations of both of them being like halves of a whole, against, you know, the barber, which, what a like B-plot Chekhov's gun of a character. At least so far. But like, I thought the barber was gonna do more. but I guess he was just background story the whole time. I don't know yet. But anyway,
what do you think is going to after these fights? What do you think is gonna happen?
I don't know, man, because Blake just gave Rose all of his memories and experiences he had from when he was half of a human. Like, he has fully embraced the only things he's gotten in his life, which are Evan and Green Eyes.
Yeah,
like, those are the only things he made an independent decision about in his half-life. Like, and those were the... And that's... I remember, like, that was the thing Rose was the most upset about, was Evan. Like, she was like, yo, that is, like, no. Like, we're gonna kill you now. And that's what they tried to do.
That's such a good point. It's like, even, like, she takes that away from him. I mean, are we gonna do a whole PACT thing? Because I had some questions, actually, about stuff before this and your thoughts about it, but I don't know if we should get into it yet.
Maybe not. Like, I've got a little bit more to go.
Yeah, maybe we'll just talk about it once we finish.
Where I'm at is, Lewis, summoned a shit ton of demons, and then Faisal Anwar showed up and said, pull the trigger, bitch. Like, fuck these humans.
Faisal is crazy, and yeah, the lawyers are so good.
Lawyers are great characters. Love them. Pieces of shit, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's my little tidbit. PAC's still going strong. Definitely competitor. Like, he makes, like, Wild Bow is crazy. Like, makes such a fun story. Very similar flow to, like, Worm. Worm has some, like, at least moments of reprieve. Nah, this is like, oh, shit from the get-go. Like, this shit don't stop, and it don't stop, and it don't stop.
And it is a reason why people that don't like PACT don't like it, is that they say it's a little too intense.
And then on the flip side, for people like me and Willer, it honestly might be the reason we do like it so much.
I say, put it in my veins, kill me now.
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, torture.
Yep. Hey, there's like a chapter here and there where they hang out for a second. That's enough.
Little torture.
I'm gonna take my headphones off now. Give me an old ping when
No,
you're done talking about that.
wanted to ask you what your thoughts on season 3 are so far as you've gotten, and then you can step back for a sec if you want.
I have to step back. I really was just watching Ted Lasso. I like Ted Lasso, and I think I only got to watch like 3 or 4 weeks of it before I just got so busy I couldn't finish it. Keep watching anymore.
It's probably better to binge the season because weekly is just a different experience.
Yeah, but weekly, I was still like, yeah, like I love this. I'm enjoying the shit out of this.
How far did you get? You got like 5 or 6 episodes in?
I think the last thing I remember is they lost to Nate, and then Nate was on a date with like the really bitchy celebrity.
Uh-huh.
And then she left in the middle of the date, and then he has dinner with the girl who keeps blowing him off.
Joe, would that be like episode 5? I'm asking if Tyler is shy of the best episode, because I think he is.
I probably am.
Yeah, he is. He hasn't gotten there yet.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're gonna have a great time.
Just give me a nice ping.
Sure. Yeah, basically, I just wanted to quickly talk about Ted Lasso season 3 because it just wrapped up. Bradley, you could also step away. I don't think we're gonna get into spoilers though, TBH.
Yeah,
aside from like general, like I did not like this character storyline, or I like this character storyline.
I'm gonna cough right off the bat because I know everyone is just Ted Lasso subreddit is very funny. I really enjoyed season 3. I understand everyone's like complaints. I don't think they affected me nearly as much as everyone else did. In terms of like those stories that people didn't like, because I could see what they were trying to go for. I don't think they're perfect, but I think in terms of like season 3 and a final season of a show, I think this was pretty good.
What's weird is people didn't like season 2, and I was like, that's the best season IMO. So...
I think partially too is like, especially with the Nate stuff, because like I think retrospective people are like, and I know you were against this because we had a really brief thing. I think the thing about Nate is very much the prodigal son there, and I don't. That story doesn't necessarily mean you have to like have the worst experience ever and go back to what you were. It's just a realization of where you belong.
It's just that in a time investment to resolution ratio, I feel like I expected more, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect more just given how much time was put into that plotline.
Yeah, no, I get y'all 100%.
But I think the Keeley plotline is the one I actually dislike in the season. So it's like I still think Nate's a great character, but Keeley is okay. She's
yeah.
fine.
I agree there. I think it's definitely the weakest plot line. But I do want to talk about very briefly about one of the greatest risings of a character ever in the history of TV shows, which is Jamie Tart.
Jamie is so good. I didn't realize he was my favorite character until like halfway through an episode. I'm like, wait, is this my favorite character?
Jamie is like the whole commitment, I feel like, for the show. Because it's just like you see Jamie where he starts, and and seeing where he ends up, you're just like, this is such a naturally fluid character development, and it feels good and it feels earned.
Yes, it feels very earned.
Very earned. And just the fact that I got Jamie developed so well there, I think makes up for a lot of the flaws people see in season 3. And I wish he had more time. But I think in like the terms of the ripple effect that happens throughout the show, he's the biggest like kind of star there, and I really, really liked him this season, and just in retrospectively like him even more.
I do think Roy didn't get quite as much content, but when you think about it, season 2 has so much Roy content, so it's like they balance it out by having like season 2 has less Jamie content, so I think they balance it out in that way, and I also think like the team is the most interesting it's ever been, with characters like Isaac and Colin. Colin had like a great storyline. Sam is like basically a side main character of the show as well. Danny is always Danny. Zorro blocked some shots for once. He didn't get scored on.
I was like, that man fucking pulled through that episode.
Okay, once ever he did.
Yeah. And then finally, the writers are like, all right, we'll go with the Mask of Zorro joke at the end.
That was good. That was a good joke.
Yeah. And speaking of the final, well, I guess, is there anything else that you want to bring up in terms before we talk about the finale and ultimate resolution?
I wanted to talk about like, because we have a friend that said the finale felt rushed. We'll get to that in a second. But also that the season felt different. That was just a Ted Lasso season, but with some plot lines more extended, in my opinion. Ted Lasso's always had like cheesy resolutions, and we're gonna look at the screen and tell you what's right and wrong, but it's also had like very human moments of like there's no right answer right now. The stuff with Ted and his mom was so good as well. And the Coach Beard and Nate scene was also really good. Beard got elevated quite a bit by some of these episodes. Him and Henry, I think, is the kid's name. That was really good. Not much else. Like Rebecca's storyline, I did like more or less. It was Keeley's was just like really weird, especially seeing like, I don't know, did we need to spend that much time to get to that finale as well with Keeley? I would say Ted was great this season. I think.
I think so too.
But yeah, we can talk about the finale.
I really like the finale of the show, and I've told you this opinion before. It's like when you end the show, you don't necessarily need to make this final episode like a huge revelation or something crazy. You just need to end the show, right? And if you try too hard, it ends up making the show worse in retrospect.
Because in my opinion, something like Breaking Bad has the most natural conclude. Like the climax of Breaking Bad is episode 14, and then you kind of already know how the last episode is going to play out. It's we're just going to check off the check boxes in the best way possible, and I think that's what you need in a good ending. I mean, you can do something like, I think Better Call Saul, for example, is a bit of a crazier ending that you would not predict, but it's like it follows through, you know.
Yes, and you finally get to the conclusion of like it's leading up to Saul's like barely dodged jail time. It has to end in.
We don't have to go into spoilers.
Yeah, sorry. It's just talking about endings there, but like I felt like the ending was very much a love letter to Ted Lasso, the whole series at the very end. Yeah, and like we knew, like I knew like from the start of the show how the show was going to end and how it had to end. Like there was no other way for it to be.
Yeah, it's a bummer it had to be that way, and I hope that like I don't know, it worked. Like he comes back in the future, but
yeah. So it's like I knew what the conclusion was, and I think they did a great job of like really like I don't want to say redeeming, but like giving the team the time to shine. Really doing a lot of great callbacks. Like you basically have like the first episode like redone again in that first opening segment with like Keeley going in, and then Jamie and Roy talking to each other, and then the team talking to each other and talking to Colin.
True. I didn't even key in on like how many beats they.
Yeah, and then like hell, fucking Jamie with the play at the end was so good, like perfect, like.
Great call. It definitely like
Yeah.
the show is definitely not like defined by its actual soccer content, but I quite enjoyed the last game, as it were.
Yeah, and it's just like, and you have like Rupert gets his comeuppance, who's like the ultimate quote unquote bad guy.
I'm glad they do not try to redeem Rupert.
Yes,
just let him sink.
Yeah, very happy about that. And so like, I think the show like. Sometimes such things just end, and like the time that you spend with people are just over, kind of like Ted with the team. So I just really like the ending. I also like that overall the show itself has a bunch of like really small like Wizard of Oz references in it because Ted's from Kansas. So I just thought that was really funny. But yeah, I think the show ended like well. I think season 3 is still good. I don't think it's the best season, but like in terms of like watching the whole show again, I think the whole show as a whole is good. I don't think it's that good place good, but I would definitely recommend it to people and say like it's a great show. You should check it out and watch it.
Probably should watch The Good Place.
You should.
The friendly reminder.
Every time.
Let me summon Tyler back in just so you can be at the start of this talk. Yeah. Return. I'm returning him like a Pokemon, yeah. So, right, Joe and I watched into... Oh, is this Across the SpiderVerse? That's what it's called, right?
Across the SpiderVerse, yeah.
Yes. We watched that on release night yesterday. Joe, do you want to give a quick spoiler-free review? Actually, we should probably do... this whole thing spoiler free, to be honest, but I understand if Tyler wants to step out. Just
I don't have anything right now that I want to like talk about spoiler wise. I think not that I say there's nothing good in the movie. It's just more of like I'm waiting on things basically to happen before I go and talk about them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the best Spider-Man movie that's ever been made right now.
Oh yeah.
I think. No Way Home wishes it was this movie.
No Way Home wishes it was this. And it's funny because No Way Home came after Into the Spider-Verse, and it also wasn't even that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Bradley, like, I wanted to text you immediately after the movie and be like, Bradley, I'm letting you know personally on your cell phone because it's very important. You need to go see Spider-Verse.
That's the thing. The first Spider-Verse was already really good, and then to me, No Way Home came out, and I'm like, okay, this is the motherfucking Spider-Man movie.
This movie is incredible, dude.
Let's go.
This is this is the Empire Strike Back. Like it's gonna be renowned as like the best, you know, unless the third one's like somehow tops this. Which it might because I don't even know. But this is one of my favorite movies. Period. I'm not just talking like. It's definitely top 2 comic book movies, and I think the other one might actually be Guardians 3, so they both came out this year. And beyond that, this is like making directly into my top 100 media of all time list. And Miles is now like one of my favorite protagonists. I love like how he's developed, and he brings me a lot of joy. I love seeing him on the screen. Love that kid. I completely agree with you, Joe. This is like what No Way Home wishes like it could, because it has like that vibe, but with the tight plot that I think that movie is missing, and really good direction. Because like they're crazy. They're fucking alchemists, creating new art that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like it's a visual spectacle unlike any other.
I was about to say, like, I give a lot of thanks to the first SpiderVerse movie because I feel like it saved animation a little bit.
In like an artistic sense.
We see way more varied art styles now, like the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah.
Love the art style, and I feel like I just wouldn't have seen that before the first SpiderVerse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they're upping the game once again.
I think, and one of the big standouts is the ability for this movie to give every character a different art style, but they all fit within that movie. Like they don't feel out of place,
and even different settings, like stuff with Gwen in particular, Joe. I'm sure you noticed, but like the way they do some of those scenes
that shit was beautiful,
jaw dropping.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The one thing that the reason I don't want to talk about much about this movie is I want y'all to see it.
Go completely blind, please.
Yeah.
Like aside from like opinions, try to watch it as soon as possible because you will get spoiled on certain things if you linger.
And the reason why I don't want to talk about much more because it's setting a lot of stuff up for the next movie, I think too. But one of the big things about No Way Home failed for me that this movie does really good is the relationship of the villain to Spider-Man. And that to me is huge. Like there's that back and forth you have to have. There has to be this kind of connection, this empathy that Spider-Man has to have that I think was just missing from No Way Home. That makes me really not like the movie because it feels like those villains are wasted. Whereas like in this,
it's very good villains.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good allies.
I think I got spoiled on who one of the villains was, who I am very excited to see.
Really? Do you mind? I won't confirm or deny, but do you mind saying what you saw?
One of the villains is Master Hand from Super Smash Brothers.
So I won't confirm or I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to think, man. Yeah, I completely agree, Joe. And there's only one thing. Like, here's the thing. Sure, there's a lot of setup. I think this movie stands on its own through insanely good character writing, like just fantastic storytelling, very tight script, very good visuals, and it all coalesces into like an experience. And how do I say this, Joe? This movie is making commentary that I really love. And there's the obvious one, I think, that we talked about after the movie. But someone says a line to Miles in particular that felt like it was saying so much by saying so little and kind of addressing the entire concept of Miles Morales as a character in fiction. And I'm very interested to see how, I believe this will be a trilogy, how this will, how we're gonna end it. I'll message you specifically what I mean later, and maybe some people listening might be able to key in. It was a line set to him around the 60-70% mark of the movie. But anyways, everybody go watch this movie. It's just incredible, and watch it as soon as possible because getting spoiled on certain things would suck.
I'm debating on potentially going to see it tonight.
Honestly, man, just go.
I walked out of that movie and I was just like, I want to go watch it again.
It's 2 hours long though, right?
Oh my god, it's so long. Yeah. Me and Willa were about to explode in the theater. Yeah. Because we had to go to the bathroom so bad. Also,
there's a 10:45 movie, and I'm like, do I want? I won't get out till like 1:30.
Yeah.
Come on, you're awake then. You're awake then, anyways.
One thing I do want to point out, it's really important, so you don't waste your time. There is no after credit scenes or mid credit scenes. So
unwatchable.
I will also point out that the one flaw, and I don't think this was local to our theater, I think this happens a lot, is the sound mixing is kind of fucked at some points of this movie.
Yes. And it's really apparent. Hopefully that gets fixed within, but I would definitely go see it in the theater.
Did y'all go to Draft House?
Yes.
We did.
And it was like fucky, especially the first 15 or so minutes. It gets better, but then it does dip here and there as well.
And this is on like Reddit. Like people on Reddit are posting about it. Like,
that's why I went to like go check, and it's like, was this just us? No, it seems like a fairly common thing where it might actually be an issue, maybe of even the movie itself.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. It does get better after the start. But
I give it 5 Moraleses out of 5. Maybe a 6 one too.
I give it 6. Like it was electric. I haven't felt this way in a movie theater since Captain America picked up that hammer.
I feel like the team working on these SpiderVerse movies just really care.
They fucking give a shit, man. They really, really do. Bradley, I know I keep telling you, like, oh, you'll like this movie. And, like, do genuinely, like, out of all of them, even Guardians, like, go watch this one. But also,
that's the thing, like, I was
Guardians.
already excited for this movie, but it was, like, the normal level of SpiderVerse excitement, which was still pretty damn high. But now I'm like, all right.
I will say I watched 0 trailers of this movie. It got announced. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch that, idiot. I don't have to see anything. So keep that in mind, I guess. I also got hit by just like any visual surprises or even characters in the movie. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So 3 of us have played some Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
How far is everyone / have you tapped out yet?
I am in the middle of the second of my second temple.
Okay.
I wouldn't say necessarily tapped out. I would just say I'm taking it much. It's more on the back burner than anything else at this moment, comparatively.
And Bradley?
You know what? I'm through the tutorial area. I'm in the main zone. I've gotten to go underground a little bit. So I'm not super far in or anything.
Early still, yeah. Okay.
I'm still super early, but holy shit, the underground area is so cool looking.
Yeah, it's an area that I explored a good bit, but definitely not as much as like you can explore there. That area is huge. And I did some excursions, I would say, there, and they were really fun, but I didn't explore it as much as the overworld or the Sky Islands.
I love excursion-based gameplay.
The Sky Islands are fucking great in this game. You probably haven't done too many of them, Bradley, but every time you hit like a new, I'll call it island archipelago in the sky, they have like a gimmick or puzzle that you're dealing with. It's very fun. I didn't expect to be the one to come into this podcast and say that I love this game, but here I am. This game is so fucking good. I give it a 5 stars. I don't know why it hit me in my weak spot, and this one clicked in ways that Breath of the Wild, as much as I like that game, I don't know, this one just hit me different.
It's extra surprising considering like the excitement levels before the game came out that we had.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was checked out. I'm surprised you picked this up. You were even actually, Bradley, even you weren't sure if you were gonna buy it.
Yeah, even I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
For me, I was like,
I say what I mean, and I mean what I say.
Well, you said you weren't gonna buy it, right?
Yeah.
But then
I was not interested in dealing with Switch hardware.
But then the other day you said you would buy it, so
I said I'm like, yeah, down the road potentially.
I will say,
different statement.
Hardware wise, the game runs great.
Yeah, there's no hardware problems with this game, aside from like occasionally you will get funky stuff when you're playing around with Ultra Hand too much, but it's hardly enough for me to really complain.
But that's the thing, though, right? In the first game, setting one patch of grass on fire could make it lag, and in this game, you can kind of get a giant mech running before you start.
This game is a marvel of programming. Like, genuinely, this might be the golden standard of programming in video games. The things they did, as subtly and well executed as they did, with as few bugs as it has, is a marvel to me.
No wonder it took so long after the announcement for it to actually come out. Yeah. I bet you the entire time they were making this game, they're like, can we show gameplay? It's like, no, because right now it's really fucked up.
Right now, if you stick a log to the glider, the world will implode.
Yeah. So like it's just like they really couldn't like showcase anything until like it was really close to being done. And sometimes that's a really bad sign because it means development's not going well. I think but they took so long to do it. I think it really paid off in their favor.
And that's the thing. I wasn't sure I wanted to get the game because they would show trailers and stuff that didn't have all of the best features of the game, like the new areas or the stuff you can do with Ultra Hand. So they would show pictures of the game, and I would be like, "What the fuck did they spend the last 6 years doing?"
Yeah.
Why I didn't want to get it. And then the game came out, and I saw what they spent the past 6 years doing, and I'm like, "That's fucking rad."
And you're so early too. I'm glad. Like, I'm excited for you to get into the meat of the exploration and getting to some of like the shrines are so fucking good in this game. They're
the shrines are way better
like,
than they were.
and I like the shrines in the original game, but I think these are like all little bite-sized brilliances.
And they're just the right length too. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like some shrines of Breath of the Wild just went on a little bit too long or just a little bit too tedious, whereas this is like, here's the gimmick. Like, they do it like an initial, like, here's the gimmick, and then later, like, here's the big puzzle, and then you do the puzzle, and then you're out of there.
It's
And even among
maybe
those
3
puzzles,
rooms. Yeah.
like the puzzles are so cool, but this game is like, it's like better 3D Scribblenauts, because for any given puzzle, there's a million ways you could probably solve
No,
it.
Yeah.
but that's the real brilliance, right? Because this game makes you feel so fucking smart. Even though you can tell, like, this is not what they want me to do, you still feel so good about it. I got so saucy with the ability called Ascend that I was just breaking the game left and right, and it got so bad that I would play another video game or even look at real life architecture, and my brain would be like, "That's ascendable. I can ascend that." Like, I just started looking at terrain differently and other non-Zelda things because my brain became so trained at immediately analyzing what terrain I could ascend up.
Man, Ascend's so good. It's like,
And-
of all the abilities, that's the one to me that makes me go like, yes. I don't know why.
Which
It's
is
just
weird,
like-
because when it's introduced, you're like, this one's whatever. It's going to be like the ice ability in the original game.
And did you guys hear how Ascend got introduced to the game by the devs?
Yeah, it was a dev tool that they were using to like get around. They're like, well, if we just kept this in terms of just like and what
That's
the
so
players
great.
use it.
That is so cool.
I thought the story would be like they went down a well, because every time you go down a well, it's like, well, I could just ascend right out of here as soon as I'm done.
Yeah.
Or a cave. I think the other unsung hero ability is Recall. Recall is so badass. And when you find places to use Recall in battle, and more importantly, when you find ways to use Recall plus Ascend to completely break the game, you just feel like a mad genius.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And of course, Ultra Hand and Fuse are, as advertised, fantastic abilities. So goofy, so fun. I just made all sorts of like little vehicles. I didn't make any cock machines, but I didn't need to. Every little rocket balloon or air bike or sticking fans to those floating platforms from the Sky Islands and piloting the floating platform. It all felt so good.
So much fun. So we were talking about this before, Willard, where like it just was, and it's still kind of like this. Like Breath of the Wild like is not gripping, or not Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is not gripping me as I think it gripped everyone else.
Yeah, you said something clicked with you.
And so I was going through the wind temple. First of all, I think one of the main problems is that like the first temple I did is like has a hazardous like element to it. I guess all of them do, but this one was just very like frustrating because it was like draining my health the entire time, and like I had to do this whole thing getting up there, and I used all of my heat, and I didn't have the money to like buy the like clothes to keep me warm.
You did rush a little bit because, for example, I went to the Goron city and I had enough stuff in my inventory to buy the armor I needed to offset that ability. And they also give you can buy the things needed to make the elixirs as well around that city.
Also, question about that. Did you have a lot of like gems and rocks to sell when you got the Goron city?
Yeah, I had a good amount.
See, like going the direction I went, there was like no mineable locations basically.
I guess that makes sense, right? You could also sell a lot of monster parts, but it's not as worth it, I suppose. So I guess that makes sense.
So I think that's what really kept me back, because now I'm in Goron City and like I'm just getting fucking like rubies and shit left and right. I'm like, oh, this is where all the money is. It's in these rocks. Okay,
maybe I did luck into like I think the game very strongly wants you to do the Rito first. You can tell from multiple ways. Not only is the dungeon like the easiest by a good deal,
I was just an idiot.
Which is weird because, like, yeah, they do make you deal with that cold, but it's also the first one they want you to go to. So I went. My order was for these are all main quests, and the game has a lot more than what I'm about to say. So don't like be alarmed. In fact, there's a hidden main quest that I found, and it was badass, and you should try to get there, Joe. If you ever try to beat the game, I'll tell you where it is. I went Goron, Rito, Gerudo, Zora. So that's the order I did those, and then after Zora, I did the secret fifth thing. There was other secret things I didn't do, like I never got the Master Sword in my playthrough, for example. I had to look up after how to get there. And Joe, you went Rito and Iron Goron.
Yeah, and I'll probably end up going Zora next because I'm just going like clockwise around the map.
Yeah, and then you'll end. Gerudo is where I think they want you to end. That or Zora is my opinion.
Yeah.
Gerudo, all of them were good in different ways, in my opinion. For example, getting to the Wind Temple is one of the most magical experiences I've done.
That's a really fun trek, I think. When you're past the mountain section, I would say. In
regards to the dungeons, and I'm sure like maybe Tyler, you might be curious on like how these actually function. They're a step above the Divine Beast. Before the record, I never disliked the Divine Beast. I disliked their theming and interiors. And the bosses also in the Divine Beast were very underwhelming.
So what did you like about them then? Because you just said you didn't.
I didn't like the theming and the interior, but I like doing the puzzles in the Divine Beasts.
Okay.
So in this game, it's similar where like you get to a dungeon and you can tackle the objectives in any order. So it's still not the traditional Zelda dungeon that people like, but I particularly don't. So these work a little better where I can fuck around like and do half the solutions how intended and half the solutions I can build a big bridge of cooled magma that I turned into rock and made a gigantic stepping bridge out of. Like that's how I
saw that too.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Cause I got like some of those like I don't know what minecart gets me up there. Time to fucking build a bridge somehow. I would have if I knew better. I would have used rocket shields. Because you could definitely use that or a spring shield. The town of Spring Shield. This game though, like it has better theming. I still think the environments though, or like the interiors, they could have done better, Joe. I don't know. I
like them more than the Divine Beasts.
For sure, they're a step up, but like I feel like they could make them a little more spicy.
I agree. I think that's the other thing about it, is that like the Wind Temple has that cold element to it, but like I think they could have done some other wind-based puzzles or tricks that you have to get around.
They did go hard on icicle puzzles. There's that chest that you need to use the icicle to grab, and I thought that was very fun.
Yeah. I had to make like an icicle like Rube Goldberg machine or like machine out of like icicles to like make a wheel spin at one point.
And then all of a sudden you're playing Mission Impossible to get the last little thing. The bosses are really good in this game though, I will say. Here's the thing, Tyler. In this game, you do get a dungeon item for the dungeon.
You do. Yes.
So unlike where you get all of those initial item or like abilities in the first Breath of the Wild, and then like every dungeon's kind of using them, there is a unique twist with the new ability you get per dungeon. And also, I think the physics engine in this game allows for so many different kinds of puzzles to where they feel very different between each major dungeon that you do. I will say that fifth hidden dungeon is very difficult. Like it's puzzle wise, it's short, but like I cheated basically every puzzle because it was that difficult.
I will say, so to finish up my like epiphany that I had.
Yeah, sorry.
We went off on a good tangent though. So I was playing the game, and you know I do that tutorial area. I really like the tutorial area. I'm like, all right, I'm really vibing with the game, and then I go down to the main quest, and I get to a point where like I have to like get across the river, and there's this big like pig, like giant, I think a Hinox. Yeah, like this guardian is asleep. It's like I don't want to do that. So like I make a little raft, and I go across the river, And I'm like, yeah, this is, and like I struggle a little bit with Wrath because it's a heavy current and the winds and like using the
That shit's so fun though. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, good time, fun. And then I kept going, and then I got to the Wind Temple, and like once I got to the Wind Temple and did all of that, like it really like nosedived for me what I was enjoying. And I was just like, why am I not enjoying this game as much? And I was like going through it, and I was thinking about it, and I was like halfway through the Goron City, and I was starting to get that feeling again that I got when I was like trying to cross that river. And then it just kind of fucking hit me, is that like I was trying to make this game Death Stranding basically. And it made me realize that I just really like Death Stranding and that loop of going and going from that one loop and developing your route and having like that miraculous, like you're going up this like fucking mountainside and you're like, I don't have enough gear to get up here, and then someone has left the perfect rappel cord in the right spot, and you're just like, oh my god,
bro,
thank the Lord.
If Breath of the Wild 3 had Death Stranding mechanics, that would be one of the greatest games ever made, because the world just doesn't get how good Death Stranding gameplay is. Everyone says walking simulator, but it's like, you don't get it. It's the best walking you've ever done. And
me realizing that made me go like, I should probably put Death Stranding up higher on my list of games, because it was just like, it's like I just want to be going from place to place and not necessarily get there and do the thing. I want getting there being the thing. And I enjoy that. But here's the
thing: I got a lot of that enjoyment out of Tears of the Kingdom. Like going to like the trek to every tower, even if I glide half of it, eventually you get on the land and you have to start doing some problem solving. And I think that's fantastic. And while it's no Death Stranding, the enemies hit fucking hard, so you need to be cautious of them. You still have to deal with like environmental aspects, like food starts becoming a problem once you're in the higher level areas. Like the game's hard, and I feel like I barely beat it combat wise. I went in a little half baked, and you will too, Joe, just knowing how you play the game. But it made it like a fun experience.
I agree. Like there are those experiences, but I think what lowers it for me as a person is that I get to the location, like I get to the Goron City or I get to the Wind Temple, and then I have to stay there and do the thing for an extended period of time.
I mean,
when I really want to get back to that travel portion.
You can break up the missions in any way. You can always just go back to the mission partway through.
Yeah, I know, but it's the gear in my head that's like, I've started this, I have to finish it. You know?
Yeah. You can't defeat the mind goblins. They're
it's my own personal thing, and like I really like the Goron City one because like you have to go up the mountain and then you have to go down to the depths to do it, and I'm like, oh, we're doing stuff that I just really enjoy getting here. And we got to the temple, and like I'm enjoying it more than the Wind Temple, I think, so far.
I think it's a way better like temple.
So like, but like once I realized that, it took a lot of stress off of me because I realized what the game wasn't, so I could appreciate it more for what it was.
That's the thing, right? I set it in my mind where I was like, I'm going to fucking beat this one, and even if I have to quote unquote rush it, I'm going to beat it. My playthrough was 70 hours, by the way, for anyone curious.
Ooh, wow.
So, and my plan though was to beat this in like 30 or 40, but I was having so much fun to where that got extended by like 30 hours, and I still beat it fast. Like I did less, like more than I had to, but like it was still quite the adventure doing that. Like, and you just have to put in your mind that's like, I don't miss the fact that I missed all like over half the shrines. Even like I probably missed like 2/3 of the shrines.
Or it took you so long. I think that's the other thing too. It's just like me trying to be in a span of time. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take it as I can. And just
you snort games like they're cocaine, Joe, and you should maybe, I don't know, let them like puff pass and relax.
Yeah. But Tears of the Kingdom is very, very good. I don't think it's my favorite game of the year, unfortunately. But it's a very good game.
You have a stacked roster. I will say this was not a contender for Game of the Year before release. I won't lie to y'all if I didn't say that I'm considering it. It's up there for me.
It really impressed me. I know one thing we joked and also serious about was that since the first Breath of the Wild came out, there's been some really god tier open world games come out. Like Elden Ring, objectively god tier, Genshin god tier only to me. But like
people don't know how good Genshin is, by the way. I've talked to Zelda fans and they're like, "Wait, Genshin overworld's good?" I'm like, "Yes, it's very good."
Oh my god, I love it. And I was really worried because I'm like, after playing with Genshin Combat for so long, which it's a game like so inspired by Breath of the Wild, the biggest difference is the combat, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is just going back to normal Zelda combat where I'm swinging a fucking stick gonna be exciting, or is this game gonna have like that dense
swinging sticks,
like that dense discovery of Elden Ring? I'm also missing out on the entire dynamic of like multiplayer that Elden Ring has. I'm like, these open world games that have come out since Breath of the Wild, like, holy shit, the sequel has to do something really unique. And God, the Ultra Hand is so unique because I'm like, here's the thing. If they totally changed the combat to be more involved to something like Genshin, then you wouldn't have people making fucking fighter jets to destroy a camp of bokoblins.
It's so good. They're making drones, like, so they make vehicles that drop a drone and then the drone goes in and fights. I'm like, how?
That's what's crazy. Yeah. I saw a video today of a guy made like homing missiles. He launches them into the air and then they have a construct head which rotates to face toward an enemy. And on the back side of that head is a rocket, which then propels it towards that enemy.
And the thing is, you don't even have to go that crazy. Just the base idea of looking around your environment and building a shitty boat is so fun to me.
Oh, yeah. Dude, building that shitty boat was like pride and joy. It's like, this is what I like.
This is the SS
if I could just, like, if there was one thing that I would just like, and from any open world game really, is that like I'm really tired of like go to the location and do the thing, or like follow this like steps to get there. Like I know it's like people hate this game or like don't look down it, but like I really like the way Far Cry 5 did it, where it was just basically like, here are the different zones, here are the different things you can do to progress the bar in the zone, and once you hit the end of that bar, you unlock the thing to like finish that zone, quote unquote. And I like it because it allows a lot of like flexibility.
Not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, because I would love to have, instead of like go down having to cross that river to go find Rito, to then go like, I'm gonna go down this river and see what's here. And I could have done that, but like I have like these targets of what is the finish, quote unquote, of the game.
Joe, you're gonna hate the getting to the Zoan Palace. You are not going to like, but the Zoan Palace is dope. Though it is the place where the frame rate just dies. That's where frame rate goes to die.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like I want open world games to really focus more on that exploration or traversal side, like Death Stranding does, and Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom definitely do that. But I want more, and I want it to be less of like, here are the things that will guarantee you the win of the game, and more of like, here's like your general idea of what you need to do. Like, even if it's just like, get into this castle, figure out a way to get into the castle and like go kill them, and not really have that much of a like strict route you need to go or what you need to do to like kind of beat the game.
I wanted to touch on something Bradley said for a sec about the other open world games, right? So, in comparison to like Elden Ring, the exploration in Elden Ring, it's not about the mobility or even not necessarily about how to get from A to B. It's when you get there, the challenges there, how tough are they, and what is the reward? Because the reward is always new. The reward's always unlocking new ways to play. The weakness of Zelda is that the reward is usually like a stat buff or an armor that very slightly changes how you can interact with the world. It's usually going to be...
It's usually a replacement for the weapon that you broke killing the enemies to get it.
I had no problems with weapons in this game, but I didn't in the first one either. But I will say that the fusion mechanic helps a lot, because some weapons... Some weapons just break the tip, so you can just replace the tip with like a monster part. I will also say, you were talking about combat. Something that spices up combat so much in this game is throwing and attaching stuff to arrows. That is a really fun way to get into the chemistry systems of this game without having to awkwardly move through the menus. I will say the controls in this game are a little awkward sometimes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The number of times I've tried to jump and I've hit like the B button or whatever it is.
The number of times I've tried to block, but I'm just standing there with my two-handed weapon, taking a Lionel hit to the fucking face.
I've been playing Genshin for so long with jump on the PlayStation X button that I actually went into the options and swapped my dash and jump control because that's what feels more normal to me.
Damn,
and then I couldn't do something, and I asked Amy to do it, and she grabbed my Switch, and she's like, "What the fuck did you do to your controls?"
Babe, I'm Genshin brained. You don't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bradley, I'm keen to hear more about your adventures when you have some time to play it later this year. Let me know how you feel about those temples as well. And so I just want to wrap up the segment talking vaguely about my journey to the end. So I had a list of things I wanted to do. Those main quests, especially the regional phenomena quest that the game introduces you with right off the bat, and also the tear droplets that tell you the story of the game. Side note, so much polyamorous energy out of that past story. It's insane. And I'm glad that like I saw people joking about it on Twitter after, because like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, you guys saw it too.
That statue, man.
Pretty decent like little story. I don't care about Zelda narratives, but I've recently learned that people really, really care about Zelda narratives.
Yeah, they do.
People really care. They're upset about some of the decisions of this game. I'm like, okay, moving on. So I did those, and then like I saw this cool place. It's like, oh shit, there's like a fifth big thing to do, and then I'm like, okay, let me go try to find the Master Sword. Couldn't find it. A friend of mine gave me a tip of where it would be, had no idea how to actually get there. So I'm exploring, and I start exploring, and I reach, like, really hard, difficult enemies, and then all of a sudden I'm, like, doing a really big fight, and then all of a sudden the story characters pop up, and I'm like, I have 10 food in my inventory, and then all of a sudden I'm fighting phases of the final boss. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to beat the game tonight. Okay, so in between phases of the final boss, I pull out, you know those Zonai capsules that have cooking, like a one-time cook pot?
Yeah.
I just bust open the 27 I had stocked up, and I'm cooking. I'm like, all right, let's go see if I can beat it. And I'm like sweating the whole time. I'm like, I can only get hit so many times before I am just out, and the boss is so difficult, and I'm doing so little damage, and he hits so hard. And I make my way through, and the final phase is so cool. And then, like, there's, like, a little post thing after that is such a fun gameplay narrative thing relating to, like, Link and Zelda, and I'm just like, oh, I'm really enjoying it. So it was a really good finale, and just my journey getting there and not realizing I was doing the ending until I was way too late was really funny to me.
It's the way you described it sounds like a woman when she's like, oh, I guess I'm having my baby now, kind of a situation.
Yeah, no, the head was already out the pussy before I realized I was in the final boss.
Oh, I guess this is happening right now.
I guess.
Okay.
Oh, I guess it's already out. I'm here now. Time to raise this child. So
to quote Willer from their screening of Avengers Endgame, "What? We're doing this now?"
Yeah, that was it. That was the very much season 2 Attack on Titan moment, if you know.
Yeah.
So last topic. There's something a little happened. Me and Tyler met up over the weekend. We got into a little hobby. No big deal. But we started playing the One Piece trading card game, and it kind of became a thing, and now I'm addicted, and I've spent like $250, but it's no big deal.
And that's the thing. Then Tyler was at work with and he was talking about his brand new cards and shit. I went out and got a deck.
Yeah.
Even during this podcast, I downloaded the sim on my computer.
I was playing the sim right before this podcast, and actually, while some of y'all were talking, I was sorting out through my decks to see, like, so which film straw hats am I missing?
Yeah. I bought my own structure deck beforehand. Yeah. I bought some packs, and like I've been following the game for a while because it's One Piece, and we're all like, we all really like it. It's got some great arts. If anything, it's just a nice like fan collection thing to have.
Like the really nice cards look incredible.
Yeah.
There's some that just have like an anime picture. It's like it's fine. You're just there for functionality. But the ones where like they go hard look beautiful.
Yeah. So if you've played a few games, I've only played like virtually with people. But I'm kind of impressed with how the game is shaped out, and like it's really fun and it's very fast. And like there's just a lot of back and forth, I feel, and it feels very tight every time we play it. Now we might get into the situation where like we go and play other people and they have like strong decks. It's like, all right, you're dead. It's like, oh fuck. But right now, with us, what we have, it's been really fun.
I mean,
it's been a healthy learning process, which I think is like, and this isn't to shame us for like when we want to like do tournaments or like maybe learn more meta stuff, but
yeah,
definitely learning a card game and having things be jank, slow, back and forth learning is the most fun to have with
Tyler, do you want to talk a little bit about like how? Because me and Joe bought decks just for funsies, but I only really played when Tyler was in town, right? Tyler, do you want to talk about like how that experience was a little bit? Because it was pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, like I mean, it was rough though because like boosters are so limited right now.
Yeah.
So if you don't buy a starter deck, you literally don't really have the option to get in unless you go on TCG and buy a bunch of singles, because no store that has boosters is going to give you enough, will let you buy enough boosters to make a deck.
Yeah, like me and Joe's local store that, thank God, like actually it's kind of a miracle, Joe, because a lot of people playing this game do not have this option. You can buy 3 packs at a time, so at least we have that. And they don't even have both sets. Like they have one set some days, one set the other days.
And it's a godsend because like what usually would happen, I'm not sure if you would know this, Bradley, but like someone would just come in and buy the whole box. So like buy out the stock of the store because
Jesus.
Yeah. Because card game people do that. And it's like statistically better for you to just buy the bulk box of the booster packs than to buy the booster packs individually.
Statistically better, but not money
Morally.
better.
No, even money wise, because I think the booster box itself is just $100 usually for other card games.
It is 24 packs, so it is slightly cheaper than buying the packs as well. So that's what you get out of there.
Yeah, but I think all of the boxes on TCG are like double the price.
They're 150. I just checked. They're 150. But me and Tyler found a New Zealand guy who's selling them when you convert it for basically market price. So we got a box, but it's for the next set. So not only do we have to deal with New Zealand shipping, we also have to wait till the end of June for this even to become a reality.
So you really confused me with your wording. I was actually wanting to buy a box for the next set, not for the current ones.
But that's what we did, right? Yeah,
this works out really well.
Yes, and the next set has Big Mom, which is who I want. Big Mom and Katakuri are who I want to like.
Dude, their abilities sound crazy.
Did you look? They get to like manipulate their life stack and like their opponent life stack. I'm like, that's so clever.
I'm really hoping I can get one of those alternate arts and get like a quarter of a down payment on a home.
Yeah, these are crazy, and these might become an investment because the game's kind of popping off a little bit from what I can see. Even though the stock is limited, like they have an incredibly healthy Discord community that I've been checking out, and that's how I was able to find the pack.
Our local game store does like tournament nights, and people come and they play.
After I make this Sanji deck, I'm gonna buy the singles for. I think I'm gonna go there and get my ass handed to me. If you would like to,
I'll take my Navy deck and just kind of screw around. Yeah.
A really cool thing though is like if you go on TCG, you look at prices, you're like, holy shit, these cards are so fucking expensive. What the heck? But like, dude, I bought 47 cards to make a new deck. I spent $50.
Which
like, of course, like I'm having the lame looking cards that are like the PNGs from the anime slapped on cardboard, but still.
But hey, some of them, sometimes you pull the fancy ones. I've gotten like a really hot Odin and Yamato. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And leaders are also like cool to pull because it gives you a new avenue. I want to talk about gameplay in a second because I'm actually quite impressed. But I wanted to finish that story of like us playing because like me and Tyler, I had a structure deck, and then every time I go to Common Interest, of course I'm going to pick up 3 packs just to see if I can pull something shiny and nice, right? But all of us played that app, and that app does not do this game justice, like the teaching app.
Yeah.
it makes things seem so simplified, and it's so on rail where it's like I'll have to see how it really is in a reality. But I thought it'd be pretty mid. But me and Tyler, like, we scrapped together like enough for us to have 2 decks, and we're playing, and it's like, this is really back and forth, and we're having to make a lot of decisions every turn, which is more than I expected from how streamlined the app was. Bradley, you played your first game just yesterday, right? Like, what did you think of your preconceived notions of like what a game like this would be and like how it's actually playing?
That's the thing. I didn't really even know the rules until I bought the deck, and I was sitting at my desk before lunch break because that's when me and Tyler were gonna duel. I was reading the rules then, and I was like, oh wow. I was kind of surprised how streamlined the game is. It's not that hard to learn, and I think even Tyler commented on the fact that it's like, there's not a bunch of distinct phases, like a phase for summoning, a phase for attacking, a phase for event cards.
It's
like,
very freeform.
Yeah, it's just like one big phase, do it in whatever order you want, as many times as you want, which was super cool. So yeah, I really appreciated a card game that was easy to learn because, goddamn, I played Legends of Runeterra for like a year straight, and I think even after a year, there are still some champions that I don't fully understand their level up condition.
And it doesn't help that that's the game where they say it in the most annoying way possible, right?
Yes.
But yeah, the worst are the ones where they're like, I level up when I've seen you cast this spell 3 times. And I'm like, okay, well, can you see me from my deck? Can you see me from my hand? Do you have to be on the field? What does see me mean?
And sometimes it's all 3 or none. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
That's the thing. I think sometimes that is interpreted differently. Sometimes it's like, I've seen you do this and they can see you from your deck, but then this other character can't. So I don't know.
Jesus.
So this game was pretty easy to learn. I really appreciated it. And so this card game's made by the same people who did the pretty recent Digimon card game,
which I heard was good.
It is good, and I could tell it was made by the same people. Number one, because God, they're just really good at making card art. I don't know. They make some stylish fucking looking cards, especially the alternates.
Yeah.
And yeah, the game is really good. I feel like it's pretty true to the source material, whether it's like what a character does or just like the theming of the game itself. The fact that you're like expending these fucking sound effects to
the dons
to give yourself power. It's so cool.
And so there's 2 key things that I was really impressed, and like where I've started to like actually invest in the playing of this game, not just the collecting, and something I didn't really grasp. One is the leader system and one's the Dawn system, right? So you got these leaders, and what's crazy is already in the 2 sets we have, there's like over 12 leaders. They all play slightly different, so even within the same color, like say you have 2 black leaders, they will like work a little differently. So you can either like play the one you have a preference for as a character, the one you have a preference for as like a local meta, like, ooh, this one works a little better. Or you can just play whatever's best for the color that you main. If you want to main a color, like there will always be like a leader who's good at that color.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of ways to go at the leaders, and it's really exciting to see like, and there's a whole tier list, right? So like say I make a super competitive deck to go play at the locals, but like say me and Tyler or me and Bradley or me and Joe want to play, and I'm just like, I can use one of my lower tier decks so we have like a bit of a more varied time. Like that's an option. I could just switch what leader I'm using or like what deck I'm using in that sense. So I really like that. All the abilities are really unique, and this is something I really love in stuff like Teppen, but something that like Hearthstone has leader abilities, but I feel like they're so minute that I don't really care for them.
They're tiny. It's like once per turn, do 1 damage.
And it's like, it slightly changes you, but like when you look at stuff like this or Teppen, it's like, oh, I'm doing this frequently, like completely, it's an identity to my deck. Like I can, I'm playing, like I'm not playing a deck, I'm playing leader, or I'm playing this art in Teppen. And I know like what is the thing, like Commander is a thing in Magic?
Commander and Magic.
And that's still different, right? Because Commander is just like a special unit.
No, so the way Commander works is when you build a Commander deck, you have to pick a legendary creature. It's like a tag, basically, that is your commander. And then all of your cards have to can only be of the color that is on that commander card.
So it's like the leaders, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the leaders, basically. And the only difference between the leaders in this versus the leaders in Commander is that you have to like constantly resummon the commanders if you want to use them, and it could be killed. Whereas like the leader in this game is like your life total and like your focus. It can't leave the board until you're dead. But that being said, I think what's great about leader systems like that, like in Teppen and this game and Commander, is that like you can identify with something, but it also gives you a really strong foundation to like build around for your deck.
Yeah.
Like I have Sakazuki, whose whole ability, Bradley, is for like 3 of the Dawn costs, I can just KO a character on the field that has a cost of 0. And it's like, okay, that doesn't seem that great, but a lot of the Marines can reduce the cost of cards on the field, so you can just start killing dudes off the board.
And what's cool about that is that reflects the story where, like, the Marines don't have the strongest, baddest badasses, but they're this organization that works together to take down pirates. So I like that, like, aesthetic to it, too.
So it's a great jumping off point. It's a great way to like illustrate like what's happening, what you're doing. You can really understand. Like it's got a great flavor to it. And then you have Saju, who's just like, I don't know, very weird. I'm not sure why he's like that, but hey, whatever.
He's cooking. Let him cook.
Yeah, let him cook. But yeah, no, I really enjoy the game, like a lot more than I thought it was.
The other mechanic I think is really well thought out. And I know, like, I'm curious on Tyler's takes on the leaders and the Dawn mechanic because he plays a lot of card games, but I think the Dawn mechanic's really smart because you never brick your hand. You're always making some progress every turn to getting more. But more importantly, I was really impressed at how much you can do with a single Dawn. So, like, you're playing another game and your mana is just your resource to summon things. But in this game, your Dawn can be used in so many varied ways, from summoning, of course, to stocking up on characters to buff them up. Or you can use it, like, I love the ways that certain abilities trigger by, like, either having 1 Dawn equipped or discarding 2 Dawn, but it can be Dawn that are rested, so you can use 3 to summon something, and then use those same 3 that you used to summon to do an effect. And I think, like, there's just all this mix and matching that you can use this one resource for. You can also leave some stocked up as, like, a defensive maneuver to use, like, counter cards on the opponent's turn. So I think it's just a really weirdly addicting mana system that I enjoy. But Tyler, what's like your take of like the card game boy? I feel.
I mean, I don't want to be identified as card game boy since I don't like Magic, and I'm pretty sure that's what everybody would agree with.
Okay,
it's sort of like
maybe Joe's the card game boy.
He plays one card game.
He doesn't play Magic TCG, so he doesn't play card games. So I've never really played a card game with a mana system, like in depth. I've played, like, I have played Magic. I've played Hearthstone. I've played Legends of Runeterra, but yeah, not in depth. And Legends of Runeterra, did they have a Did they have a mana system?
Yes, they did.
Is it the same as Hearthstone?
Kind of. Like, there's a certain amount, but you can also bank mana from next turn up to 3.
Yeah, I remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I like that. I think the main caveat of why I like this game so much more is that your energy is not just energy.
Yeah.
Like, making your creatures stronger is such, like, it's at least in Yu-Gi-Oh! Making something like attack go up is so gimmicky, but it's always felt so underwhelming, I feel like.
Because all it takes is one card to just blow it up anyways, you know?
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of card games, because of the way instants or the way some card games move so fast, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh!, like, there's no point in having a monster with a higher attack. So the counterbalance to this game is that your monster's attack increases are temporary, and they only matter when they matter. And I think that's so fun. Like, I think that's really cool. Like, Bradley played a Zoro card the other day, and it's like, if this card has a Dawn on it, it's actually at 6,000 power. And I was like, yo, that's so fucking good.
Because
like,
the Dawn will also just buff it even more.
No, like, the Dawn... But here's the thing, though, is normally we're used to Dawn during... only applying during your turn.
Defensively. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so it's at 6,000. I'm like, that's so simple and so strong.
Yeah.
It's so subtle. And it's, of course, early as hell right now, so everything gets to be slow, everything gets to be fun, and everything just gets to be power crept, you know? Which is the most fun to be playing a card game. It's just, it's nice right now. I think it's cool that we're getting in when it's only the second set, and they haven't even introduced all the colors yet.
Yeah,
and
well, I hope the power creep isn't too bad.
It's I don't know. There's over 1,000 characters in One Piece, and really all they're doing right now is like they've got the characters, they've got the like events and like the battle moves and stuff.
I'll say this in regards to power creep. I was watching a tier list video. Let me see if I can pull it up without making a bunch of noise. I was watching a tier list video on the next meta that Japan's at. Some of the best characters are some of these early ones. Zoro and Whitebeard are still some of the best characters. Kid is still really good. Kinemon's still really good. Magellan's still really good. Smoker. And like even the base Luffy is like these people are still putting him in B tier because he's still scary in the late game. So I feel like they're doing a fairly decent job. Some of these leaders seems like they come out and just kind of suck. But the ones that are like solid seems like it just depends on what's going on in the meta right now for whether or not they're still good. And I'm looking at like a list of like over 20 leaders now at this point. A lot more than 20 even. So it looks like it's being pretty good. And I agree with Tyler. Like the idea of like the mana being used for more than just this and the subtlety of it. It's like, okay, this seems like a really subtle effect. But when you're actually in there and you have to make decisions with your resources, it feels really good.
Yeah.
And as long as like we all stay relatively interested, I think we'll always have people to play that aren't like going super try hard. Like every time I play Joe or Tyler, at least with my crocodile deck, it comes down to like the last life for both of us. And I used I'm making a Sanji deck and I was testing it on the sim, and I fought a Whitebeard who's ostensibly like the best character right now. And it came down again to him at his last life, and like I had a chance of winning if I just slowed down my play. So I kind of like misplayed with my Sanji, who's kind of a low tier character. So that feels pretty good. The sim's really good, by the way. We didn't mention, but someone just made a Unity project that lets you play the game online. It's great. And me and Joe and Tyler have been playing with webcams. Like we just put our webcams down.
That's clever.
That's been a fun experience. Bradley, you should jump on and play us on webcams or the sim
Deal.
or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Tyler have a box coming. I have a couple of packs coming. The journey will go on. I can't wait for them to add the recent Luffy transformations that are not in the anime yet.
Oh my god.
When they add that, first of all, deserves the power creep. Second of all, I'm going to try my best to get that motherfucker ASAP, but I know I won't be able to.
I'm just waiting on Leader Robin. She's going to be a purple card, I know it, and
That's true.
I'm just going to have to buy that.
She'll have something with
I'm just,
searching.
So here's the thing.
Waiting on Leader Peru.
Shut up.
Have any of the Luffys been different gears?
Not yet. So they could do something. They have a chance to do something weird.
Yeah.
Water Luffy?
Yeah, Water Luffy should be a card at least.
That'd be badass.
I want a who is he in Thriller Bark?
Moria?
No, who is Luffy in Thriller Bark?
Nightmare Luffy. Yeah,
Huh?
Nightmare Luffy.
I want a Nightmare Luffy purple deck.
Oh man, I can't wait for them to make a card. They should make it an event card, or it has to be a Zoro ult. It'll probably be a Zoro ult, but then nothing happened.
Oh, that would be a good card.
Where it just like cancels an attack or something.
Yeah, basically. Or you choose another card and it gains blocker for this round.
Or he can survive.
Man.
He can survive a death blow if he has a certain amount of Dawn.
Yeah, it just makes the attack make the attacker have 0 this turn.
Yeah,
That's hot. Man, and that's the ultimately that it comes down to this. It's a good card game, and it has fucking Chopper on the cards. I mean, look,
Yeah,
I'm enjoying. Chopper's on the card. I'm having fun, and
Chopper leader win.
They're gonna add the Vegapunks. They're gonna add, some of the spicier world government characters.
I want to make a Power Rangers deck with
Judge Captain will go so hard.
No, look, I'm gonna make a
what
Luffy
deck is
only
Drew
deck.
gonna be?
It's gonna have Luffy leader, regular Luffy. It's gonna have Lucy. It's gonna have Afro Luffy.
Yeah.
I already said I was making an all Robins deck, so
yeah, but all Luffy's gonna be real because they're gonna have if the card name is Luffy, do this. So
yes,
no.
No.
Yo, there is a sub archetype called Impel Down All Stars, and it's all the people who are escaping Impel Down.
Ooh.
Man, I'm kind of upset that Tyler is interested in Magellan because now I'm like, I can't build Magellan yet. I have to wait till Tyler gets bored of it because he called it first. But I'm calling dibs, okay, on when Big Mom and Katakuri come out. Everybody step away.
You're good.
All right, y'all. That's it for the podcast. Thanks for joining me. You guys have a great weekend. Good times.
Good time.
see ya.
Bye.
Bye.